was a win-now move for Gary Payton II, and I completely understand why the Warriors wanted to add Gary Payton II back to this roster as key component as he was to them winning that NBA championship. He would plug right back into their rotation and be in the top 8 or 9 and be able to play 20 minutes a game, and he gives them useful skill set that they really need in terms of on-ball, point-of-attack defense, which has been so lacking and I think led to so many different issues for the Warriors defensively. Just the fact that they haven't had, through lengthy stretches of the game, someone that has the ability to do it. I still, though, think that you can't – it's a win-now move, but if Gary Payton II is out, and I know there's a ranging reports about is it 2 months, is it
Good
3
point.
months?
Mm-hmm.
If he can't play until May 10th or 11th, or even let's just say May 1st, or let's even just say it's 2+ months and it's when the playoffs begin.
Yeah. He may not play at all.
We might not see him at all because the Warriors right now, part of the allure of getting Gary Payton II is he's going to not only help you make the playoffs, but help you get to a point where you're out of the play-in tournament glut, preferably. Like you're getting him because you think adding him to the roster for the next 2 months helps your chances of getting on a run that this team has shown to this point of the season they are incapable of getting on over and over. So to me, if you're not going to have Gary Payton II for the next 2 months, that makes me want to pivot and be more likely to veto the trade. The other part of this, too, is the issues with Gary Payton II's repeated injury history and the issues about Portland and the reporting with respect to the Blazers, telling him to take Toradol injections and trying to push him to play before maybe he was ready. I know there's also been reporting that the Warriors extremely unhappy with Portland's side of this thing and also through their medical exams believe that this Payton injury is something that he should not be playing through, that it needs to be rested, it needs to be rehabbed. And so I think you set that aside now, but you also move forward with Gary Payton II is under contract for the next 2 years, beyond this year, and I think the injury issues and the surgeries that he's had as a player that is starting to get up in age now and just got paid and hasn't been the most durable player throughout the course of his career, that would give me pause even about the future 2 years on the deal. That could wind up being a bad deal for the Warriors, even if it is $16 to $18 million over the next 2 years. So for people that say, Whitey, what do? You'd still have him for the 2 years. Well, you don't know what level of Gary Payton from the guy you had a couple last season you would even get for these next 2 years. So to me, that factors in. I think you veto the trade, but it sounds like the Warriors are comfortable moving forward and are more likely than not to accept the trade and waive the failed physical.
Yeah, so let's I want to be clear here. You say it if it were up to you, you would not make the trade, but what do you think they will do? Aside from what you think they should do, you think that they probably will. As I do, they probably are going to go ahead with the trade, right?
I think they are. All indications are at this point that they're going to go through with the trade.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems like they are comfortable waiting for Gary Payton to be available in 2 months or 3 months or next season, and that they believe what he brings to the table as far as the defense. And look, I do think this Warriors team, Whitey, needed an infusion of something. I think we talked about that a little bit last week. And I think the good vibes of Gary Payton coming back, I mean, you could feel it in the Bay. Warrior fans were really excited about it. And the prospect for, a guy that didn't really want to leave, a guy that the Warriors really didn't want to lose, but the price point became too great and to where the Warriors would have to subtract some kind of salary. It wound up being James Wiseman's salary if they were going to keep Gary Payton's salary around on the roster. So they figured out a way to do it. All things being equal, and we can get into the Wiseman component of this, and we will over the course of the next 3 hours, because that's also a big part of it. But I think on the surface, if Payton was a healthy player, you could accept the terms of this deal and say, okay, it didn't work out with Wiseman. The Warriors whiffed on that, but they did get a productive rotation player back in return and somebody that they want to have around moving forward. So at that point, it's all good. The injury, though, to me, gives me enough pause to where I, again, wouldn't do it. Although, yes, to parse through the Warriors' view of it, it does look like the Warriors are going to do it. And I think that opens them up to even more scrutiny for how the deal works out than they would have been opened up to had they just decided to roll with the deal with a healthy player.
Remember last week, JD, I was talking about the last guy before Wiseman who was a number 2 pick and just didn't work out. And it's funny because he's now, well, if the trade goes through, as Marvin Bagley, he and Wiseman would be teammates. But I mentioned that because we were talking about Sacramento actually, they botched that pick, but they got a useful player ultimately in return for Marvin Bagley. And it looks like the Warriors could have done the same thing, and maybe they have. You mentioned how popular GP2 is in the locker room and how beloved he is by his teammates, but you also have to look at what he's done on the floor. And if you get into some of the analytics and things, it's amazing how impactful he's been. Just real quick here, that 2021 year, 10 games, Gary Payton II with the Warriors. Remember, it's like, oh, Gary Payton II, who's this guy? Well, his offensive rating, that's when he's on the floor, offensive rating for the Warriors, 152, defensive rating 95. That was 10 games in that play-in year. Last year in 71 games, when he was on the floor, the Warriors' offensive rating 129 and their defensive rating 103. So he's been hugely impactful, going beyond just his points per game and his shooting. And his shooting last year was excellent. Otherworldly. He shoots 62% and made a good percentage of threes. Even this year with Portland, offensive rating 127, defensive rating 114. So yeah, you could see how, wow, that pick didn't work out. But if we get GP2 back, man, this is a guy who can really help us, and he helps us in areas that we really have struggled this year. However, as you said, as we all know, if he can't play, I mean, that's the whole thing with Wiseman. Why do they got to trade him? Oh, he can't play. Well, if Peyton can't play because of a core injury that's not healed, then what use is he to you? But there's just so much here medically that we don't know. It's a great point you raised where the initial report said, he could miss 3 months. Then there was another report with another source saying, that sounds like a little extreme to me. Well, here we are trying to figure out what's going on, and the most of it is based on this medical information that we're just not privy to right now.
Yeah, and if it is closer to a month and he could come back down the stretch of the season, then I think that changes the complexion of everything. Then you'd be more willing to do it. There's also the part about Gary Payton II and the 5 surgeries that he's had in the last 6 years, which, again, it's not just about do you have him this year for me as you try to parse through what the Warriors ultimately do today in making a decision to either go through with this trade. And look, Detroit's involved in this. Portland's involved in this. Atlanta is involved in this. And it's an all-or-nothing deal. If the Warriors hold the fate of all of these teams and all of these players and picks and everything involved in this trade in their hands. It's up to them. They can accept and waive the physical. Deal goes through. If they choose to rescind the deal with the failed physical, the deal is dead, and there are no changes, amendments, or anything that can be done because the trade deadline has passed. If this was a deal that had been done, say, 2 days before the trade deadline, and this was still the day of the trade deadline, then there would be a potential to amend or change. Maybe the Warriors get a little more compensation from Portland in it, or the terms are a different player or whatever. But that all, because of the timing of this, is off the table. It's an all or none deal as to what the Warriors do. So 888-957-9570. It's John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. It's Warriors This Week here on 95.7 The Game. And the question is simple. What do the Warriors do? Should they veto the trade? Should they, even if Gary Payton II is unavailable for the entire remainder of the regular season and the 5 surgeries in 6 years, does that give you pause about the future and the next 2 years of his contract? And then we haven't gotten into the James Wiseman component to this, which is, and the Warriors have to factor this in, if they veto the trade on the failed physical for Payton, that means James Wiseman comes back to the Warriors. He wasn't playing anyway. It does make it more awkward, obviously. It's not something he asked for, nor is it fair to him, but the Warriors really don't owe being fair to James Wiseman as part of their decision-making process through all of this. And I think they also have to ask themselves the question, if Payton isn't going to be healthy, is it worth bringing Wiseman back knowing that you can probably trade him again in the offseason? The question then, though, is can you get a better player and a better fit than you got in acquiring Gary Payton for him now? And if you don't think you can, maybe that leads you back to, all right, we'll push the deal through.
Yeah, I think I would do that. Again, so much of it's based on medicals that we don't know. But for you and people who agree with you, and I understand the position, I think it's a very reasonable position. I'm not there yet, but I get it. But if you were going to rescind the deal, and you'd have good reason to, how do you deal with Wiseman? That would be my question for you and also for everyone else calling in here. Xfinity Mobile text line, 888-957-9570. How tricky do you think that would be? Hey, James, you know what? We loved you all along. I agree with you. You don't owe him anything. But how awkward does that make the relationship that already hasn't been the smoothest? I mean, how awkward would it be? How do you go about trying to rehab him again now when he already knows that you tried to get rid of him?
Right, and confidence and those things, have been a factor, I think, in this, Wiseman part of it. I do think, he's the expectations of what he was supposed to be and how he was supposed to help and the inability to help and the injuries and all of that. I do think Whitey weighed on Wiseman to a point where it compounded the development. He was already having issues developing, and I think the fact that he wasn't as much of a factor as he was billed to be, whether there are easily explainable reasons for it, I do think that snowballed and prevented Wiseman from being able to come back and be more of a factor more quickly. It all kind of fed on itself, if that makes sense.
I just want to say this because I know I haven't been the biggest Wiseman fan since they drafted him. But, we'll see what happens here. Just in all fairness to those who are, we know there's a lot of people for years have been talking about how good he is. One of those people that still believes in him is the general manager of the Detroit Pistons, who said as a player he has tremendous upside. Oftentimes when young players go to championship level teams, it's hard for them to fit in and find their way because you have to conform to the system that's already in place. It's been proven, and he's no different. They had a bunch of injuries, and they lucked up and got that pick, and so they were able to add this kind of talent to a championship level team. He never really got a chance. So for those who are still Wiseman believers, Mr. Weaver, the GM of the Pistons, he's with you, and that's one reason why a lot of Pistons fans don't understand it, but the Pistons are hoping this trade goes through because they really are excited by Wiseman's potential.
Yeah, and look, if the trade goes through and the injury part of this changes so many different things, because you could make the case if Payton is healthy, the Warriors get better in the short term by adding Gary Payton.
Yep.
I've said it, this team needed an infusion of something. Yes, the Warriors, I think it's an admission that they whiffed on the Wiseman pick, but I do think the fact that you're getting somebody that could help you immediately, if you were getting somebody that could help you immediately, would make it worth it. There's the financial component to it. With the $7 million in luxury tax saved this year, I think it's close to $30 million in luxury tax the Warriors would save next year. Now, you could still do another deal involving Wiseman in the offseason, and you could make the case that for the Warriors, Wiseman was becoming, if not already, a sunk cost. You look at the personal aspect of Wiseman in this, and going to a team like Detroit is exactly what he needed in relating it back to their general manager in those comments, exactly what Wiseman needed to have a shot at really beginning his career. He needed to go somewhere where he can play, not worry about wins and losses, not worry about whether he plays well or not, just play, gain experience and confidence, and grow. I know the Pistons do have a couple of other bigs on their roster, but it sounds like they were more than comfortable to letting him come in and start right away and try to play and develop.
Yeah, and I know that they've been trying Beef Stew. Isaiah Stewart's one of the centers they have that I think has been better than Wiseman, but they've been sliding him, trying to play him at the 4 a little bit. So we'll see what happens, of course, but there's no question that Wiseman at times, you look at some of his numbers, you could understand why someone like Troy Weaver would say, woo. And the Pistons wanted him. They had some interest there even before the Warriors drafted him. The thing with the Warriors, as we know, as we'll discuss, as we have discussed, the Warriors kind of ran out of time because of the crunch they have with the cap. And next year, $12.1 million, lesser team, like, again, comparing it to Sacramento with Bagley, when they got to the same situation with Bagley, they decided, you know what? Let's pay him, and you never know. Maybe it works out. And the Warriors just don't really have that luxury because that means, all right, that's fine, but $12.1 million times a luxury tax, that means there's something else that we really want to do that we can't do. So that also was a huge factor in them deciding it's time to move off of James Wiseman.
888-957-9570. It's John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason, Warriors this week. We're with you until 1 o'clock. We appreciate everybody watching on YouTube and Twitch this morning as well. Let's get to the phones, and we'll get it started here with Chuck in Danville. What do the Warriors do? Do they veto the trade? Do they accept it? Chuck, you're up first here this morning on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Chuck?
Chuck.
Hey, guys. Nice to catch up with you.
You got it.
I feel like, look, it's a sunk cost. You knew what you were getting when you traded for Peyton. He was injured. You knew he had the surgeries. So the history is the history as far as his health goes. And you were just making a bet, like you said, JD, that he was going to be able to help you now. Unfortunately, you find out that that's not the case. I don't think you want to bring back Wiseman. That's kind of akin to bringing back a disgruntled employee, or as we were talking, previously, a spouse that you want to divorce with. But and they think, the Warriors, being the great organization they are, they think the world of Wiseman. They want to give him a chance to go out and play and see what his career has to hold for him. So I think you're left with trying to, hopefully the league intervenes, or you can go back to Portland and get some sort of compensation, get something back. Or like they said, just don't, unfortunately, Portland's the one that is, I see as the bad guy in this. And it's just, it's a really unfortunate situation. It's kind of what happens when you wait till the last minute to try and do a deal like this. You're kind of stuck now. So that's my take. And again, I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Chuck. Yeah, the deadline absolutely muddies this whole thing, because if it is done a day earlier, there might have been a day to figure out an amendment to the deal. I know the Xfinity Mobile text line, there was a text that said, hey, why can't you get GP2 in the off season? Essentially veto the trade now, go back to Portland, try to maybe do something in the off season. Obviously, then Detroit doesn't get Wiseman and Sadiq Bey stays and Atlanta's ticked. I mean, the Warriors, not that they should be concerned about this, Whitey, but the Warriors do risk, and I think Chuck's right on as far as Portland being the ugly component to this with the, trying to push Peyton to play. And it seems like they really were pushing an injured player that they knew the Warriors had interest in, and they knew Peyton had interest in going back there, and they tried to maybe take advantage of that situation, which is an ugly, ugly aspect to this whole thing. But the Warriors also, because they hold the fate of all of these players and teams in their hands, they do run the risk of Detroit and Atlanta being like, hey, bleep you guys. Like, we had action we wanted in this thing. And so, again, not that the Warriors need to be concerned about it, but there is a pressure that comes with the fact that these other teams are looking at you to account for deals that they wanted to make.
But if there's anything to what we're hearing about the Blazers, I have no idea. If there's anything to that, I'm sure the other parties involved in the deal could understand that. If, and I think you touched on this earlier, Chuck touched on it, if perhaps Portland's found to be in the wrong, maybe the Warriors get some sort of compensation from the league, but that's going to take time. The league's going to have to look into that, investigate all of that. And another reason why this happened right up to the deadline, based on what we're pretty sure we know, is that the Warriors were still involved with the Raptors about OG Anunoby, and they would have liked to have made something happen on that front, but the Raptors just wanted too much. They wanted Kuminga and multiple picks and other players, I believe the last I heard. So ultimately, the Warriors had to decide, and I think they were right to say, that's just too much. So, all right, then they made the deal to get Peyton. But that's one of the reasons it was against the deadline. There were other things, specifically one other thing with the Raptors that they were hoping they were going to be able to do.
All right, he's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson. 888-957-9570. Simple question, and we'll parse through all of this. What do the Warriors do? Do they accept the trade, even if Gary Payton can't play, for anywhere between a month to 3 months? I think how long Peyton would potentially be out is a concern, and also the 5 surgeries that Peyton's had in the last 6 years. Does that give you pause as far as this core injury that Peyton's dealt with in the past that keeps popping up, and his ability to be able to play the next 2 years on the deal as well? This could be a very bad deal, Whitey, for the Warriors and Peyton if they accept it and he can barely play. Forget about this year, although that's a big part of it, but over the course of the next 2 years. To me, if the Warriors accept this deal with Peyton as an injured player that they are going to wait on, I believe that opens them up to far more criticism about the entirety of the deal moving forward than if Peyton was a healthy player coming back.
Well, the Warriors don't want to publicly admit this, but we all know it. Not that they would want to hide it. They just don't want to, make a pronouncement about it. One of the most attractive aspects of this trade is that they save, would it be $7 million this year and then like $30 million next year. So you could see how they would say, look, even if he doesn't play, we're saving all this money. We have more money in the offseason. But you don't want to say that. So what if, JD, let's say your doctors looked at it and said, you know what, in a month and a half, he should be good to go. Nobody knows for sure, but what if your own doctors gave you some kind of timeline like that, which the Warriors being the Warriors, I don't think they'd share with us, but that's their right. Would you then be inclined to make the trade? I would be, and I'm still leaning towards making it anyway, which I know would be a gamble. But if it's going to be significantly less than 3 months, where he would be expected to be out, maybe just half that, would you then think, yeah, you should make the deal?
At that point, I'd be a lot more open to it because you'd be getting him for a portion of the remaining regular season and then the playoffs. But again, the thing that can't go undiscussed in this is how much a healthy Gary Payton enhances the Warriors' chances of making the playoffs, which currently is not a lock. Part of why you go get Gary Payton is because this team may not have been good enough to make the playoffs without getting an infusion of his defense.
I've been saying that for a long time. Yeah.
The good vibes that he brings to the table and all of that. So to me, if you go get Gary Payton and you say you're willing to wait a month and a half and then he can't come back and then you make the play-in tournament and lose, well, then to me you get double the scrutiny as far as that goes. And then to me you also get held to a different standard as to what James Wiseman ends up becoming, which I think if you're trading for a healthy player, I think that the calculus on that is changed as well. So 888-957-9570. We'll come back. We'll reset the phones. We've got a lot of people that want to talk, a lot of text messages to get to. What should the Warriors do with news of this and the decision likely to break here over the next few hours? It's Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
You know what? Let's throw a party this year for the big game.
Hey, we can invite our friends over and all take turns yelling at the TV during the game.
But first, we should get a new TV.
Yeah, like one of the top-rated brands, Samsung, LG, or Sony.
Okay, so I'll start shopping on the internet, then head over to the Warehouse Club to compare.
But if that's all we do, we'll be sorry.
Why?
Because the best deals on those top-rated TVs are at Video Only, not online or at the club.
Video Only has better deals?
Yep. We could save up to $500 if we shop smart.
Then we could afford a larger model and really impress our friends.
At Video Only, you won't find huge stores with refrigerators or microwaves, but you will find the best deals on top-rated TVs, soundbars, and monitors. Shop around. Just make sure you visit Video Only, because if you don't,
you'll be sorry.
In Mountain View, San Mateo, Union City, Dublin, and San Rafael. Video Only.
Science proves quality sleep is vital to your mental, emotional, and physical health. The Sleep Number 360 smart bed senses your movements and automatically adjusts to help keep you both effortlessly comfortable. And it's temperature balancing, so you stay cool. So you're at your best for yourself and those you care about most. Life-changing sleep, only from Sleep Number. It's our ultimate Sleep Number event. Save 50% on the Sleep Number 360 limited edition smart bed, plus free home delivery when you add an adjustable base. Ends Monday. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation and discreet shipping if prescribed. You'll love your results. To start your free online visit, go to 4hims.com/joy. That's FORHIMS.com/JOY.
Johnny Mosley here with the Saturday Toyota Tahoe Report. You're not going to want to miss this one at Palisades. It's going off up here. So grab your paddleboards, jump in your Toyota, and get ready for some face shots.
Thanks, Johnny. Snow showers are expected early Saturday morning, but they should clear up by the afternoon. Temperatures expected around 35 degrees. By evening, you'll see partly cloudy skies with a low of 17 degrees. This report has been brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Check out Toyota's full lineup of mountain-ready all-wheel drive vehicles. Toyota, let's go places.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. When the prospect of divorce becomes a reality, you need a partner that you can count on. If you're a man in this situation, consider contacting Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men navigate complex legal matters for 30 years.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's California area attorneys. 2121 North California Boulevard, Suite 290, Walnut Creek, California, 94596. Online at CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com.
Tune in to 95.7 The Game for Warriors Live, 60 minutes before tip-off of every Warriors game. Brought to you by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet, only from Xfinity.
Still overpaying for a razor? In this economy? Gross. At Dollar Shave Club, you can get a top-shelf shave at a regular shelf price. We've been hawking shaving products for years online, and we're excited to bring you the same great quality and low prices at a store near you. From high-quality stainless steel blades to super smooth shave creams, Dollar Shave Club's in the business of making your shave easier. Find Dollar Shave Club in the men's razor aisle. Getting your Dollar Shave Club razor wherever you want. Isn't that great?
If you're looking to get a new car, you could really cut expenses by bundling your car and renter's insurance with Progressive. Sure, you love your old car, but you know it's not normal to give instructions on how to open the window. It should be self-explanatory, but it's not. And notice how when you're in other people's cars, you can feel cushion in the seats? That's pretty nice, right? No, it's just normal. So bundle your renter's and car insurance with Progressive and put the savings toward a new car. It's time. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers.
The all-new Nissan Ariya is a fully loaded EV. It's brimming with style and power.
Up to 389 horses of it.
Innovation and intelligence.
E-Force all-wheel drive.
It'll pin you to your seat.
Your very plush seat.
The all-new, all-electric Nissan Ariya. Nissan Ariya with E-Force expected availability early 2023. E-Force cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. E-Force and 389 horsepower available on Platinum Plus. Nissan calculation using 1-foot rollout testing with long-range battery and E-Force only in sport mode with E-Step off. These results are for comparison only and should not be attempted on public roads. Drive responsibly. See nissanusa.com for details.
Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs.
It never dawned on me how much walking I used to do until I bought a house in the suburbs. Like when I'd say, I'm going for coffee, of course I was walking. But now it's like 3 miles and no latte's worth that. I find myself inviting people on walks with me like it's a scheduled activity. This morning, my neighbor asked me what I'm doing, and I actually said, I'm going for a walk with Nancy.
Anyway, when you save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto, that's the easy part of adjusting to the suburbs. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliates and third-party insurers.
Dell Technologies President's Day business event starts now with deals to power America's doers and dreamers. Save on select performance business PCs powered by 12th Gen Intel Core processors. Don't forget special pricing on the latest monitors, docks, and accessories, plus free shipping and special financing with Dell Business Credit. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL for President's Day deals. That's 877-ASK-DELL.
Duran Duran returns to the Bay Area May 28th with special guests Nile Rodgers and Chic and Bastille. Don't miss Duran Duran, the Future Past Tour, May 28th at SAP Center San Jose. Tickets on sale Thursday at Ticketmaster.com.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
All right, welcome back, John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. 888-957-9570. We're with you until 1 o'clock here on 95.7 The Game. Much to discuss as the Warriors are on the clock currently as to what will they do here coming up on 48 hours now beyond the trade deadline and the four-team trade, which among many components and pieces would allow the Warriors to acquire Gary Payton II from Portland, James Wiseman going to Detroit, Atlanta involved in this deal as well, and the Warriors have to decide whether or not they're going to rescind the deal, Whitey, or accept the deal even with the failed physical designation attached to Gary Payton II and figure out how long Payton would be out. 888-957-9570. Let's get it started with Austin in San Jose asking the simple question, what do the Warriors do? Austin, what would you do, my man? You're on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, what's up, fellas? Listen, I got a little bit of an unpopular opinion here. I think the Warriors, I thought that from the beginning that this deal smelled a little funny. I believe GP2 was probably the third option on the whole deal. They made a quick, my opinion now, they made a quick decision on GP2. I don't think they got up in the morning and said, hey, our big deal today is going to be getting GP2 back. So I think there was probably a couple deals that for whatever reason fell through. Now they're in a situation where they went ahead and got GP2, and all hell's broken loose with his physical situation. So I'm going back and saying, as much as Portland may have been a little bit underhanded, the Warriors bear responsibility on that. I don't think we should be giving Myers and his team a free rein and saying they didn't have any responsibility. I'm bringing this on the Warriors. They should have handled this better, and that's my opinion, man. I don't know if you guys feel that way, but I feel like the Portland's getting all the blame. But what about the Warriors front office? Why didn't they catch it? Thanks, guys.
Thank you for the phone call, Austin.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah. They did catch it when it went through the physical. I will say this, though, to Austin's point, and I'm on record, and we disagree on this. I would veto the trade. I would veto the trade. I would bring Wiseman back. I would not allow whatever Portland did to be accepted in a way, because to me, if you veto the trade, then I think that lets the league off the hook as far as looking into what, like, to me, at that point, you put the onus on the league to look into, hey, this deal could not come to fruition because we had to veto it and all of that. Point I'm getting at, I don't want to ramble on this. To me, the Warriors bear more responsibility for it if they accept it. If they waive the physical, then they know they're taking an injured player back and they're giving up a young asset to acquire that injured player. And so at that point, if it doesn't work out for them for any reason, then they bear, at that point, the brunt of the responsibility. Like, you can't accept a bad deal for an injured player and then, if it doesn't work out, whine about the team that tried to sell you the damaged player. Like, you have an out. It sucks. Portland is 100% in the wrong, it sounds like, from all of the reporting. But if you accept it, you lose the right at that point to complain or blame them.
Well, it may not be that black and white. I understand what you're saying. I understand Austin's point. I don't agree that the Warriors could have handled it better. I mean, we'll see what they do. It's also possible, JD, I don't know, but it's possible the Warriors accept the deal, but there may also be some league involvement with the way Portland handled it, and maybe on the back end, maybe Portland gets slapped, maybe they lose a draft pick, or maybe you actually get some additional compensation. I don't know, but I think that's a possibility. But as far as saying, oh, the Warriors should have handled this better, to this point, I don't think that's fair. They did catch it. Now we'll see what they decide to do. To me, I think it's time for the Warriors to move off of James Wiseman, and this is a good chance to do that. Anything short of Gary Payton's spleen falling out, and who knows how badly injured he is, but anything short of that, I'm making this deal. And obviously, to your point, we agree on this. If it's like your doctors say, man, he may not play this year, then wow, that's probably not worth doing. But if there's a reasonable chance that he'll be back within a month or even a month and a half, I'm going ahead and I'm making this deal, and I think I'm better off as an organization and on the floor because of it.
And the other part of it is, Gary Payton acknowledging the fact that he's had 4 or 5 surgeries in the last 5 or 6 years. I keep coming back to, it's one thing if he can play in a month or two or in the playoffs should the Warriors make it, but he's had a lot of surgeries. He's 30 years old, and you also have him under contract for the next 2 years. So if you're accepting this deal, you're accepting that player for the next 2 years. If he winds up being unplayable for good chunks of those 2 years, then you're on the hook for that. Well, I agree with you that the Warriors, there's nothing they could have done differently on the lead up to this, but right now they do have an out. That's why this process plays out with physicals and doctors and everything, and you're right. To the Warriors' credit, they caught it, but at the point in which you accept it, it's on you. And so, if it doesn't work out, then to me there's more scrutiny that would be deserved handed at the Warriors' lap if it doesn't work out for any reason.
Would you like to hear, and I know we have a lot of phones, we need to get phones, we appreciate everyone calling in and listening. Would you like to hear a player that everyone knows who had this same surgery recently?
Sure.
Okay. As he was with the Blazers last season, Dame Lillard had, according to NBCSports.com, Dame Lillard had the same core surgery last season. Remember, he really struggled, and he struggled a little bit when he came back this year, but he's playing well. So that, again, it's not medically sound to say this guy had that surgery and he had that, so they're the same. They'll recover at the same time. But that is something to keep in mind. The Blazers say that Dame Lillard had the same core muscle surgery last season.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. It's John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. It's Warriors This Week here until 1 o'clock. What do the Warriors do? The news of the decision could break here at any moment as the Warriors set to take on the Lakers tonight at Chase Center as well. So the Warriors have a decision to make on this. Couple of text messages to get to. Xfinity Mobile text line. A couple of things here on this. 408, yes, JD, exactly. If they accept it, then Bob Myers is on the hook. Bob would be allowing Portland to get away with this. That's how I view it. If you accept it, you allow it. That's kind of on you. To me, as much as you want a healthy Gary Payton on your roster, and a healthy Gary Payton could help this team, I think if he can't help you, and then you got to veto the trade. You got to bring Wiseman back. He wasn't playing anyway. He goes off in the back burner. You tell Wiseman, hey, we'll figure something out for you in the offseason. And I'm of the belief that, don't worry about, oh, well, this is the best you could get for Wiseman now, and everybody knows that this is the best. You won't be able to get this much for Wiseman again. Miss me with that. Like, I think you can always trade players. The Warriors, I know there's financial ramifications to it, but they can pay to keep Wiseman on the roster and trade him at another point in time for an 8th or a 9th man, which is basically who they traded him for this time around. Like, that type of a deal, I do think will still be on the table in the future. Don't panic, Whitey, I guess is what I'm saying about, oh my God, this is your only chance to move Wiseman for somebody that can help. No. Not if the value has been set at 8th or 9th man.
Yeah, but the value is only going to go down if you've already traded the guy and then you had to rescind it and then you're trying to trade him again. I mean, his value, unless you're going to play him this year, which then you're compromising your season potentially. So I don't think the value for Wiseman is set. I think it only goes down from here because teams will look at that and go, we know you don't want the guy. You already had to take him back. So, I mean, that's not necessarily a definitive reason not to make the deal, but I would make it as long as I have reason to believe that Gary Payton is going to be able to play by the end of the regular season.
All right, 888-957-9570. Let's go to Joe in San Francisco next here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Joe?
Hey, guys. Happy Saturday. Unfortunately, I'm 55, and so I've been watching sports and Bears sports for a long time. I can't ever remember there being medical undoings of player acquisitions and trades, and then we got two in 4 months with Carlos Correa and this.
Yep.
And what the hell is going on around here, as Vince Lombardi said. And then when you lose Purdy in 6 seconds into a game, it feels like we're getting cheated or getting shafted here. But I know it's just, that's just fans complaining. JD, are you absolutely mathematically certain that killing the GP trade gets Wiseman back, or are they registered? I know it was logically 4 different team trades, but if they're registered in the league office as 4 discrete trades, I don't know. Are you absolutely positive with that? I don't know. Can they just send GP back and they got 4 picks? And the final thing is, my spidey senses say that if this is rescinded, however way it is, that is a sign of Bob Myers not coming back to the team. And if he does not rescind and keeps it, it's a sign that he will. Because I don't think Bob Myers would do this wrecking ball type of thing of getting rid of Wiseman and getting a busted up player and then just walk away at the end of the year.
Yeah, although maybe that's sort of predetermined at this point, and you already know. I mean, if Bob isn't coming back at that point, it's fair to question, is Bob just facilitating these deals based on somebody else's wishes? And I think that's fair to question, and that's a completely different aspect to all of this. As far as the deal itself, though, Whitey, according to the reporting, and it's multiple reports now from ESPN to The Athletic, it was submitted as a 4-team trade. And Anthony Slater of The Athletic was on our air yesterday with Damon and Ratto, and he explained it as well. This was submitted as a 4-team deal. And so if the Warriors veto the deal, which there still is, they got to make a decision on that. If the Warriors veto it, Whitey, it's Peyton goes back to Portland.
Right.
Wiseman goes back to the Warriors.
That we do know for sure. Yeah.
The 5 picks are gone from Atlanta. Sadiq Bey goes back to Detroit. Like Knox goes back to Atlanta. Like everybody goes back to where they were, and it's as if nothing happened at that point in time. It's not as if the Warriors can take Sadiq Bey now or keep the 5 picks and use them later. It's an all-or-none deal, and the Warriors hold the fate of everybody, Whitey, in their decision here over the next few hours.
Yeah, because they were reported separately, but yeah, as far as the league is concerned, it's all one deal. And Joe's right, by the way. I was thinking of that, too. I don't recall ever a major Bay Area sports transaction being really held up or reversed because of physical. And now all of a sudden, it happens every week, it seems. So that's just stunning.
Let's go to Rich in Fremont next on Warriors This Week. What's up, Rich?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for taking my call. I got to agree with the last caller. Dropping, guys off, middle of a trade and the player's injured is just ridiculous. It really is. But I will say this much. If I'm Bob Myers, what I do is I do not rescind this deal, and I'll tell you why. I don't personally believe that, one, they were looking to hash this deal based on getting a good player that was going to absolutely 100% help them get to the finals. I think they were trying to get some help. I think they were really trying to deal with that cash that they were going to have to pay by keeping Wiseman. Now, they followed through with this deal. They've done that. Now, John, you're saying, well, you know what? If they do this, then it's on Bob Myers, and it probably will be on Bob Myers. And I think Bob Myers went into that knowing, because really at the end of the day, whether Peyton is injured now or if he's injured in the playoffs, it'll still be on Bob Myers. No player that plays in this league is absolutely 100% without the possibility of getting injured. That happens. That's part of the deal, okay? And so if I'm Bob Myers, I keep this deal. I move forward. The report says that he's probably going to play later on anyway when they really need him. So to me, it from the Warriors standpoint and from the front office, it is a good deal, but it's a tainted deal. And I also believe that at the end of the day, it's the NBA's responsibility to do something about this, okay? Because at the end of the day, the NBA shouldn't be allowing, teams to drop off, injured players in the middle of a trade. That's just ridiculous.
I agree with that, but again, the Warriors out is by vetoing the trade. So, and I'll be redundant on that one for the next 2 hours. If the Warriors accept the trade, it's on them at that point, because their doctors caught it, they're okay with it. And I want to go back to the original point, which was this deal more about the financial ramifications of dumping Wiseman as far as essentially a salary dump? And there was a point on Thursday afternoon or morning leading up to the afternoon, Whitey, where it looked like maybe the Warriors just did this trade for the salary relief and we're going to take the 5 second-round picks back, and that was going to be it. And to me, at that point, like that, if you had a problem with it, I would not like that at all. Like, to me, this deal right now can't just be about being a salary dump. Like, It needs to be about getting a player back that can help this team, which in theory, the Gary Payton trade, like, I got a major problem if you just did a salary dump right now in the middle of the season when you've got a team that's kind of flailing to string any kind of momentum together. You want to do that in the offseason after you see how this season ends and pivot and have it be a part of a bunch of different moves, that's fine. But I got a real problem with, in the middle of this season, you make that move if you had made the move without trying to get somebody back. I think the Warriors were looking to get a player back that could help them. I think Gary Payton was in a unique situation because he knows them so well. They know him so well. They know his value. His value to them, I think, is greater than his value to Portland or his value to another team, which is why the Warriors were comfortable in doing this. But if he's not healthy and can't help you, it's a fail. Bottom line, point blank. And you're already admitting that you whiffed on Wiseman by trading Wiseman. So if you're whiffing on Wiseman and you're getting a player that can't help you, that's 2 marks against you.
Well, and I don't think the Warriors are in any hurry to make this trade for a guy that cannot help them. So that's what they're looking at. Gary Payton II's also a unique asset in this respect. the Warriors obviously take a PR hit locally if they have to decide, and it looks like they did decide, you know what, second pick, wasn't the guy, we screwed up. But if you bring back GP2 to a degree, maybe a small degree, but to a degree, then you've got to, all right, that's bad. But look, we're bringing back, the guy that he was nobody and we found him and everyone loves him. So that's another aspect of this trade. My fear is if Joe Lacob really is a big Wiseman fan that has been reported, and I know he pushed back on that and said everybody wanted him, but let's just say you are Joe Lacob and you love this guy and you still think, man, we might regret trading him. And then you're talked in or you decide, all right, we got to trade him. And then this happens. I mean, how hard is it going to be for him to go, yes, we still want to make that trade? So I would guess that's also a factor here. The owner saying, yeah, you're right, let's do it. But wait, what are we getting back? So there are a number of things that I would guess that's one of them that the Warriors are sorting through here before they decide whether to go through with it or not. I still hope they go ahead with the deal.
It definitely hits different, I think, in a positive way because it's Gary Payton II.
Right, exactly.
I think you're right about that, and I said as much to a few people just in general conversations, that the fact that if this was a random player on another roster, I think the whole deal would be viewed much differently by the Warrior fan base. But because you're getting, it's GP2,
right,
and
it's
he was at
palatable.
the parade running around with his shirt off and a champagne bottle, and he helped them win the title, and families from Oakland and all this like that component of it adds it's a very Giantsy feel good, he's one of us and he's come back home aspect to this, to where if it was, let's say, Terrence Ross that they were getting in the deal, people would be like, that's terrible.
Right.
Why would you do that?
Absolutely. That's absolutely true.
So but I think you can't totally be swayed by the name value. And as somebody said to me on Twitter, the GP2 name in the Bay hits different. It carries more weight than potentially how much GP2 would be healthy enough to actually contribute. And if you're going down that road, like he better be able to contribute. Like, he is evaluated not based on the good vibes of 2022. He's evaluated on, is he healthy enough to help this team this year and over the course of the next 2 years? That's the pass or fail of this thing, Whitey.
Yeah, I still think, and I agree with the texter here from the 415, why can't this deal be both at the same time? Dumping the salary and getting a player to help on defense. It can be, we think, based on GP2's health. You can't overlook the getting out from under Wiseman's salary before next year when you've got some tough decisions to make. That's a huge part of this deal. But if you can accomplish both of those things, then that's ultimately, it's a win. It's not the big win that some of the other Western Conference contenders enjoyed at the deadline, but it's a win for the Warriors, and they're a better team than they were before the deadline.
Filmo Mike next here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Filmo?
Mikey.
Hey. What's poppin'? Hey, I just want to say, man, kudos to Wiseman. Hopefully, he do well. I think he's going to be pretty solid. But I think it's an indictment on the Warriors. I talked to you earlier, Michael Chalawadi Gleason, about the big man camp. And his rebuttal was, well, he's not a big, he doesn't play like that. But that was my point. It was like, bruh, he needs to learn how to set a screen, and a big man camp would have helped him. The Warriors have to do a way better job of developing big men. The big man dude, the dude that came from Denver, their coach, Jokic is raw. I don't know how much Cuz helped him, but Jokic is a all-time talent. So I don't know how much he really added to Jokic's bag. You know what I'm saying? They need to develop big men better. Wiseman setting screens, he was horrible. He left too soon. And this is like basic fundamentals. Now, he should have learned it in high school and college, but that's not the point. Teach him how to set a proper screen, and maybe he could have been utilized better. It's a total indictment on the Warriors coaching staff that they can't develop a big man as promising as Wiseman to set a simple screen.
Thanks, Filmo. I mean, there are a lot of different aspects of why it didn't work out with Wiseman. I just think part of it is Wiseman was better equipped to do things in the short term that didn't really help or fit with the Warriors system, whether it was a post-up game or a face-up game on the elbow or shooting threes, or it just like he could score if given the free reign to be a focal point in the offense and go score. But why would you want that when you have Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Draymond Green throwing the ball? So it was just a bad fit. And as Tim Kawakami said to the guys in the morning roast, I mean, it just every time he was out there with Curry, it was an unmitigated disaster. And if you can't play with Steph Curry, then you can't be a part of the Warriors program. That's the reality and the rat on the table, Whitey.
When you look at what the Warriors traditionally, as long as Steve Kerr's been here, what they ask their rat on the table, yeah. When you look at what the Warriors ask their centers to do, you have to wonder why they would spend the second pick on a center in the first place. But that's all, water under the Old Bay Bridge now. Let me just say this.
Why? Let's be honest, because they thought the championship days were over. They thought the championship core was done winning championships. And so they felt like, hey, this second time, because you got to go back to the day of, and Klay gets hurt, and they had just won 39 out of 72 and all of that. Or they just won 15, I guess, that year. But it just, to me, you can't, they started looking at the next core because they thought this core wasn't going to be able to win it again. That's just reality. And then the core showed they could win it again,
right,
without Wiseman being a part of it, and that changed the calculus.
Yeah, but if he was going to be part of your core, you would have had to approach it entirely differently. But be that as it may, again, you know that I haven't been the biggest Wiseman guy, and people coming after me again. It's like, I don't understand why. But let me just say, for those, and I think Mike's one of them who see the promise of James Wiseman, this is a fact. Okay, James Wiseman, when he plays 20 to 29 minutes a game as a Warrior, this is what he did. 13.8 points, 6.4 rebounds, 1.2 blocks, shooting 54.5% from the field. So I understand why people looked at him and said, man, this guy's going to be really good. He was not a good fit for this system, and when he was on the floor, the Warriors were not a good team for whatever reason. That's why they're moving off of him. I'm just saying, I understand why Detroit looks at that and says, maybe we have something there. I understand why so many Warrior fans are wondering, how come the Warriors didn't get more out of him? I just don't think he was ever going to be a good fit here.
888-957-9570. We got 1 hour in the books. We got 2 hours to come. It's John Dickinson. It's Whitey Gleason. It's Warriors this week. What do the Warriors do? Do they rescind the trade, or do they allow it to go through with Gary Payton II's failed physical? We'll continue to discuss next here on 95.7 The Game.
Hey, let's throw a party this year for the big game.
Oh, great idea. But first, we should get a new TV. One of the top-rated brands. Samsung, LG, or Sony.
Okay, I'll start shopping on the internet and then head over to the Warehouse Club.
Well, but if that's all we do, we'll be sorry.
Why?
Because the best deals on those top-rated TVs are at video only, not online or at the club.
Video only?
Yep. We can save up to $500 if we shop smart.
Or we'll be sorry.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to GetRefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to GetRefunds.com. That's GetRefunds.com.
You've got advanced prostate cancer, but you're not waiting around. You want straight talk, the facts about Orgovix.
Orgovix Relagolix 120 milligram prescription tablets is a treatment for adults with advanced prostate cancer. Fact: Orgovix is a different kind of androgen deprivation therapy treatment, a pill, not an injection. Orgovix may cause serious side effects, including a heart condition called QT prolongation. Tell your doctor right away if you feel dizzy, faint, have a racing or pounding heart, or chest pain. Orgovix can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during treatment and for 2 weeks after Orgovix treatment. The most common side effects include hot flushes, increased blood sugar and blood fat levels, muscle and joint pain, decreased blood hemoglobin levels, increased liver enzymes, tiredness, constipation, and diarrhea. Other side effects include weight gain, decreased sex drive, and erectile function problems. Orgovyx may cause infertility. Talk to your doctor if infertility is a concern for you.
Go with Orgovyx. Ask your doctor. For more facts, visit gowiththefacts.com.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. Many great wines now come in boxes, which produce half the overall emissions that bottles do. When we each share our one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
The Super Bowl is on Odyssey, and Westwood One brings it to you, streaming live for free Sunday on the Odyssey app. Sponsored by AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
The Eagles have been the NFC's best team.
Touchdown, Travis Kelce. It's the Eagles versus the Chiefs.
The Kansas City Chiefs, the Philadelphia Eagles, are going to the Super Bowl again.
Catch all the action from Westwood One. Your Super Bowl, your Odyssey. Get in the game and download the free Odyssey app today.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/joy. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/joy. That's 4hims.com/joy for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/JOY.
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect, support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase, make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
This week, Staples has deals so good, you're going to want to sit down. Are you sitting? I'll wait. Great. Right now during Staples Sit-a-thon, select chairs are more than 50% off. Like the leather Vortex gaming chair, now just $119.99 at Staples. You save $140. Plus, an 80 count of Lysol disinfecting wipes is only $1.99. So take a seat or two. Right now at Staples, the working, learning, and saving store. Offers end to 11. Share offer valid in-store and online. Lysol in-store only, while supplies last.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMC FM at HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
The Warriors have been pretty upset today about the situation, the negotiations with Portland, and just, I guess, how this all went down. And they're trying to figure out, kind of what their path forward is. But they made this deal because they wanted a win-now player, and their win-now player cannot play now, and they did not know that before they made the deal.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Hour number 2, Anthony Slater there with Damon and Ratto yesterday here on 95.7 The Game. It's Warriors This Week with John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason. What did the Warriors do? That is the question. The trade involving Gary Payton II coming to the Dubs, James Wiseman going to Detroit, Sadiq Bey to Atlanta, Picks and Kevin Knox among the players going to Portland in this deal. Those 5 second-round picks, Whitey, that were floating around over the course of the trade deadline 48 hours ago. And do the Warriors keep the trade in place? Do they rescind the trade? We could have some breaking news on that here coming up over the course of the next couple of hours here on 95.7 The Game. But Monty Poole of NBC Sports Bay Area reporting, and I'm paraphrasing, more likely than not, it seems like that the Warriors would be willing to accept the trade. I'm still trying to find, Whitey, a real reason why, considering all the injury red flags, you would accept the trade. Like, it really is surprising to me, and maybe it's a statement to how the Warriors really feel about Wiseman. Maybe it's the the contractual component and the tax savings in immediate form. But I'm trying to figure out a reason why you could be so upset about it, as Anthony Slater relayed in his hit with the guys in the afternoon, and then still be like, you know what, we're cool with it. Gary Payton might not play for 2 months, 3 months, but we're still cool with it and going to do this deal. That's hard for me to palate.
The only way that happens that way is if the Warrior doctors say, hey, you know what, it's going to be a while. He can't play right now, but there's no reason why he can't play within 2 months. Again, we heard 3 months, and then there was another report from another source, so to speak, that sounds like a lot. So it depends on what the doctors say. If the Warrior doctors say, they didn't tell you, but he can't really play right now, then yeah, you'd be upset. But if your doctors say, now, he should be okay, this is the way these things heal, and it's just going to take him longer to heal, then you would say, all right, that sucks what they did to us, but we still want to make the deal. That would be, if that's the case. My question for you would be, and again, I'm not trying to, trap you. We disagree on this, but I'm just wondering how you see this. If you say, all right, we're not going to make the trade, we're rescinding the deal, then what options are left for you as far as this year? You're keeping Wiseman, maybe you play him, and then you're looking at the buyout market, I would assume, right? Which I'm sure they're going to do anyway.
Yeah, you're looking at the buyout market, but you may just have to bite the bullet that you're not gonna get help this year, because you might not get help anyway with Gary Payton II. I mean, to me, it first and foremost hinges on that. Can Gary Payton II help you this season?
I agree.
And part of why you wanted him was that you thought he was going to be able to play between now and the end of the regular season. So that if he can't play between now and the end of the regular season, this team is less likely to even make the playoffs than they would be if Gary Payton was added and healthy like that. This is not like if the Warriors were 32 and 22 right now, I'd say, you know what? They can probably wait for Gary Payton to be available. And if he isn't available, they're still a really good team without him. And you know what? Move forward in that way. They're not. Like they need help now. And if they can't get the help now, then to me, like James Wiseman, I know everybody's down on his value and all of this, but James Wiseman still is an asset. If Gary Payton can't help you and you're worried about the injury concerns for the next couple of years, Wiseman is still an asset that you could trade for a bench player that can help you in the offseason. I'm confident in that. Like, you shouldn't be panic-stricken that you can't get a rotation player for James Wiseman in the summer. Like, to me, if you're worried about that, then you got bigger problems at that point in time, to where it's like, Gary Payton, he's so good, and it's GP and the parade and can't, like, you got real issues if you don't think you can get a ninth man for James Wiseman in June or July.
It's possible you won't. I mean, we'll see. His value is very low if this is the best you could get for him, and if it's a player that can help you and you get the salary relief, then yeah, this can still be a really good deal for you. I just can't wait to find out what the Warriors are going to do. I encourage them, unless the medicals are like I say, if you go see, hey, GP2, let's see how you're doing. Oh, his spleen fell out. Then I'm not making the deal. But short of that, this helps me on a number of fronts, and I need help now, right? I think we agree on that too. As far as maximizing the potential that this group has this year, I need help now, and I've been saying that since November.
888-957-9570. We got full phone lines. We'll get to the calls here, and we'll get to everybody that's on the board here in this segment on 95.7 The Game. There's been a back and forth, Whitey, and I know we've been both trying to do our due diligence behind the scenes as far as the deadline as to when the Warriors have to make a determination. I know it's been reported in some places that they have 72 hours. It was reported in other places that it was 2 days, and that thus today would be the day. Tim Kawakami of The Athletic, will give him credit on this. He put this tweet out just within the last couple of minutes. He says, NBA source tells him the deadline for the Warriors to decide whether the trade goes through or to cancel it is tomorrow evening, not today, tomorrow evening. So they could make the call today, Tim writes, but the decision on the deadline is tomorrow.
So I think it is 72 hours then. That would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, so some clarity. That would mean 72 hours presumably from when the trade became official in the league's eyes after the trade call. So sometime tomorrow afternoon or evening.
Yeah. So it'd be just about at the deadline, right? Because it was official right about the deadline. So tomorrow evening, East Coast time.
I think later. I think it was agreed to at the deadline at noon, but I think when they actually do the trade call with the league, all of the teams have to kind of get in line. And so they may have not had their trade call with the league until maybe 4 or 5 o'clock.
All right.
And then once it gets, so I think you would have 72 hours from that point in which the deal is agreed to in the league's eyes after your trade call.
So bottom line, they got more time to go through this, but it's less likely that you and I are going to have any breaking news on that. Certainly possible, but a little less likely we'll have definitive word before we're done today.
Exactly. 888-957-9570. Mitch in New Jersey. Let's get to the phones. We'll go rapid fire here. Warriors this week on 95.7 The Game.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Mitch.
Thanks for taking the call. Hope everything's well. Happy Super Bowl weekend.
Thank you.
Something. First of all, I think you should keep your twos. I think you have enough talent in the team to not even worry about Gary Payton. I want to see more Moody. You got some other guards through the draft. You got to like him. And Wiseman wasn't going to play anyway. You got to admit, he was a bust. Too bad he didn't draft ball, but I know we've gone through that already. And one more thing. But the West has gotten so much better. I mean, brought in 2 superstars. I'm calling Carey just a star. But the West got so much better this trade. I never seen like that. It's like it was a ship. It'd be looking to the right, to the west, from my angle. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
All right. Have a nice
Thanks, Mitch.
You're
Couple
right.
of things. Right now, Moody can't play. I'll just rapid fire. Right now, Moody can't play. If he could play, he'd be playing. I don't think Wiseman is a bust. I think calling Wiseman a bust is a statement to his career, and I don't think we know that Wiseman's a bust yet. I will say this, and I said this yesterday, it's a whiff. The pick for the Warriors is a whiff. It's a whiff. It's a miss. Like that, you cannot, there's no other way around that. They have to own that. It was a bad pick. It was a miss. It was a whiff. We don't know that he's a bust, though. Wiseman may go on to be a good player throughout his NBA career, and that would make him not a bust. Like Marvin Bagley at this point is a bust because he didn't do it for Sac, he hadn't done it for Detroit, and he just isn't a very good player, period, and we kind of know. Like if a couple years down, 2-3 years down the line, Wiseman's Marvin Bagley or Wiseman's still Wiseman, then he's a bust. But I'm not going to attach bust to Wiseman. Maybe we're mincing words here, but
I hear you.
I don't think he's a bust.
Let me just say this.
In all fairness to him.
Yeah, understand that. But as far as the deadline goes, I just want to go back. Last week, I believe I know I was saying, I don't know if much is going to happen. And JD, not only did JD say, a lot's going to happen, I think he also said, keep an eye on Kyrie and Dallas. So good for you there. A tip of the cap to you there. As far as Wiseman goes, it's going to be interesting to see here if he does get traded. What does that do to him? You mentioned Marvin Bagley. Marvin Bagley looks like a guy who's very talented, but maybe isn't that interested really in being a professional basketball player. You need guys who need to win. Maybe Marvin Bagley's just, I like basketball, okay. How about James Wiseman? Is he going to use this if he gets traded to galvanize his career and just say, that's enough of that? Now I'm going to show what I can do. Be very interested to see how he responds to this deal. Either way, if they trade him, what's he going to do? And if they keep him, as I've been asking you, JD, that'll be really interesting to see how he and the team handle this.
It would. If I'm Wiseman, I'm excited at the prospect of going elsewhere and being able to play. That's what I would want most if I was James Wiseman. But the extension of that, though, in the context of what the Warriors are dealing with, the Warriors don't owe that to James Wiseman right now.
No, they don't owe it to him, but they still have to deal with it. It's still awkward, and it looks bad.
Right. No, it would be very awkward, and it would be an unintended consequence and something that, another thing that Wiseman would have to deal with that he didn't ask for. And it's not fair to him, but sometimes life isn't fair. I guess what I'm saying is the Warriors don't owe it to Wiseman
I agree with
factor in their decision on the deadline as to whether they veto the trade or not. They don't owe Wiseman a better opportunity in Detroit.
I agree. I know what you're saying. A lot of people have been saying, this
do right
guy,
by Wiseman.
Yeah,
they don't owe him that.
He's a good guy. He's not a bust. And it's like, that may be true, but one has really nothing to do with the other. We wish him the best, but you have to be able to perform when you're on the floor. That's all that's about.
And if the best thing for them is to nix the trade and Wiseman comes back and sits on the bench for the next 3 months, then that's the way it goes. He'll get an opportunity, hopefully, next year. but I think the Warriors can't be worried about that. They got to do what's best for them.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I think there's some benefit if they do make this trade. There is some benefit for them as an organization saying, you know what? It's, as JD says, it's a whiff, we move on. And if you still have him around, you still have that lingering, well, what are we going to do with Wiseman? Well, we still think you could be a good player. I do think there's a benefit from at this point saying, we're moving on, we're getting the salary relief, got a player hopefully we like, but we're moving on from Wiseman. I think it's time for everybody just to get to that point. I think there's some upside there just by virtue of that.
I can't roll with that unless you're getting a player back that can help you. And the reality is we don't know whether Gary Payton II can help. It may turn out that he can, and if he can, then I'm okay with the deal. But if he can't, and there were all these red flags that you knew about because of the physical, and you accept the deal anyway, and then he can't play, then that's completely on you, and to me you should be held accountable for it as much as anything
you can't take the
that is a failure that the Warriors have been held accountable for to this point.
Yeah, if he can't play, you can't take him. It's like, no, we don't know. You can't take him. I'm with you on that.
Javier in Vacaville next here on Warriors This Week. What's going on, Javier?
How you guys doing, Mr. Gleason?
Hey, good to talk with you.
How you guys doing?
What's up?
Good, man.
So, whether this is practical or not, I really would hope that the Warriors would really put some thought and look into the possibility of maybe they can find a way to just include them in the Pistons. I don't know why people are writing off Sadiq Bey, 23-year-old forward, 15-5, shooting 40% from the field. He's on a rookie contract. You don't know what you're going to do with Draymond. He's a combo 3-4. I'm not at the notion to say, hey, you package him with Nerlens Noel and him. You put Wiseman with Ryan Rollins, or the shooting guard that Warriors had number 4. The salaries match there, and call the league and say, can we just do a 2-team deal? They get Wiseman, we get Sadiq Bey. Sadiq Bey is a great asset to have, a former first-round pick, and the Pistons are ready to get off of him. I'm not saying because obviously the calculations and everything it's a 4-team deal, but hey, Gary Payton's not healthy. He goes back to Portland. Kevin Knox and the picks go back to Atlanta. We'll take Sadiq Bey. I'm just trying to figure out why Sadiq Bey would be somebody the Warriors be interested in. When they got Sadiq Bey coming to Golden State, I'm like, take him.
Yeah, thank you for the call. Here's the deal on that. I like the Sadiq Bey component. If the Warriors had, and I said it before the trade went down, if the Warriors could get Sadiq Bey for James Wiseman, I would have done that deal at this point. I liked that deal straight up. If it had been, or it looked for about 10 minutes yesterday before details of the bigger trade came in, like the Warriors were going to get Sadiq Bey for James Wiseman. And I think that would have been intriguing. I think Sadiq Bey would have helped the Warriors in a different way than Gary Payton II helps the Warriors if he's healthy. But this is also a good time to point out the fact that it can't be that's off the table now. The trade, it is a 4-team trade as agreed to by all 4 teams. If the Warriors nix it, that's it. It's done. It's over. Everybody goes back to where they were, and there are no amendments or deals that can be done because the trade deadline has now passed. So reconvene in the offseason and you figure things out from there, and maybe a deal can be done along those lines. But no, you can't go back and pick and choose what you want out of these other teams. Atlanta's getting Sadiq Bey at this point, or they're not, because that's what everybody had agreed to.
Yeah, I understand where Javier's going there, and I understand your point too. I do think if you looked at Sadiq Bey as a Warrior, and we know what he can do based on what he did when the Pistons were just at Chase. But he's not a great defender, hasn't been to this point. And I'm not sure how well he passes the ball to play in the Warrior system. So he's a very talented player. I'm not sure he's a great fit. Other than that, when you look at a Warrior team, it's like, wow, you could use some youth, some talent. He seems like a good fit. I'm not sure he'd be an ideal fit, but I probably would do that deal too if that were actually an option.
Well, and he also hasn't been as great a 3-point shooter as it seems. I think a 34.5% 3-point shooter for his career.
That's not terrible, but yeah, you're right.
Not terrible, but I think he's sort of been. I think if you just asked around, Sadiq Bey 3-point shooter, I think a lot of people would say, oh no, he's 38 to 40% a 3-point shooter, but he really hasn't been to this point in his career. Let's keep it moving on the phone lines. Ben in Oakland next here on Warriors This Week. Hey Ben.
Hey, I have a different idea. I think we should just punt on the season nix the trade, play all the young guys, and go for it next year. I think the only reason we won last year is because we weren't in the playoffs the 2 previous years. We just got to read the tea leaves. This season isn't working out. And, we need some fresh legs with Steph, all the injuries, and just go for it next year. What do you guys think?
Thank you. Appreciate the call. I would not do that. I think in another year where if this was a more normal year, Whitey, where the Warriors' record had them 8 games out of 4th and 5 games out of 8th, I think then maybe you would have to consider that. But you look at the standings right now, and as disappointing as the Warriors have been, it is, they're currently 7th, and they're a game out of 6th, and they're only 3 out of 3rd still. So and you still have Steph Curry coming back at some point. Klay Thompson's looked as good as he has at any point since coming back from his injuries over the last six to 8 weeks. And you still have Draymond Green on your right. You're too close to being able to make a run if you can get your act together to where you're not gonna think about punting on the season and playing the young guys. Although vetoing the trade is still on the table.
Yeah, I understand the question. I think it's a fair question. And don't you think, JD, at some point when Steph got hurt, I'm sure the Warriors, brass at some point they at least had that conversation. But
for sure,
there's really not a lot of upside to doing that at this point. You go back to the gap year when, of course, Klay was out and they lost Durant. It's like, well, we have our gap year and we end up with a really high pick, which turned out to be Wiseman. That didn't work out. But you could understand the upside right now, given where they are, what they would have to gain by doing that. It just doesn't. The risk reward right now for where they are doesn't make sense to punt on the rest of the season. I don't see how you really benefit unless you're going to argue that your veteran players need more rest. And I don't think that's good enough reason to do it.
Let's go to Scott in Berkeley next. 888-957-9570. What do the Warriors do as far as vetoing or accepting this trade? What's on your mind, Scott? You always bring a different perspective to things. What do you got for us?
Morning, fellas. I guess my first question would be, is Myers petitioning the league front office for some kind of a one-off? Personally, I would keep everything in place. It's done, and, we move on from there. But I just end up wondering if he's not talking to the league and saying, okay, Portland has to give us something else to maintain everything. The trade deadline is a trade deadline and everything's supposed to be set in place. But I think Bob has the argument of saying, look, I didn't know the extent of what it was with GP2. I've got to have something else to kind of keep everything in place. And the league may give them the one-off. Because again, we have to remember Portland has had a long-standing issue about not being really upfront about injuries, going all the way back to Bill Walton. And I think this is one of it's kind of the thing of saying, well, maybe we have to do something one time to keep everything in place. As for the rest of the season, I'm kind of going toward the idea: are we fighting to to get into the playoffs, or is it going to, in the long run? I'm kind of going: is it going to be worth it, or maybe the retool has to begin?
Yeah, I think that is a decision that the Warriors have to make, but I think the retool, you can kick the retool conversation down the line until you see how this year ends, because the Warriors are mixed in all of this, Whitey, still capable of getting on a run to where they can have a shot at attempting to win a title if they can be healthy enough and get their act together. Like, nobody's ruling that out. Like, to me, you're still closer to that opportunity for this season than you are to needing to tear it down to the studs. Now, if you miss the playoffs this year, or if you end up, as 2 years ago, an 8 seed, and you end up losing in the play-in tournament and you don't make the playoffs, then by all means, you have to assess everything as far as the future of the franchise goes this offseason, including whether Bob Myers is going to return and orchestrate everything. But to me, it's a matter of whether they veto the trade or not. what happens between now and the end of this season still has a tremendous amount of value in determining how the Warriors proceed moving forward over these next few years.
When you look at how much Joe Lacob is paying out and you look at the luxury tax, it just doesn't make sense to think at this point, well, you know what? Let's start to retool. You still have your core. Steph Curry's one of the greatest players we've ever seen, and he's still productive. So it just doesn't make sense. I thought Scott's other idea makes a ton of sense. I don't know if there's anything there by NBA rules, but it would make sense. And, obviously if there's anything to it, Bob Myers, who's an attorney, is going to be able to figure out how to get something extra out of Portland. Look, for our troubles, we need something from them. I'm just not sure if that's how it works. The league may say, look, you either make the trade or you don't. And then if they're going to be punished for it, we will take that out on them and they will, we'll take a draft pick, but you don't benefit from that. I don't know, but it's a good thought. And I'm sure it's something the Warriors are, if they haven't already, they're looking into every nook and cranny of that.
888-957-9570. A little bit of breaking news as well as far as the game tonight. The Warriors are playing tonight, and the Lakers have just announced that LeBron James is not going to play tonight against the Warriors. He obviously broke the all-time scoring record on Tuesday, didn't play against Milwaukee on Thursday, and LeBron James, amid all of the trades the Lakers made, it looks like we'll probably get to see some of their new players tonight at Chase make their debut, but no LeBron James against the Warriors in an NBC Saturday Night Showcase. Not to make this about the Lakers, and this is great for the Warriors, but I don't know what the hell the Lakers are waiting for. They make all these trades. I mean, they're 13th in the West, right? I mean, they got a long way to go, and it seems like they're comfortable just waiting for LeBron now after he broke the record. That's a weird one to me.
Yeah, he must really be injured. I think he hurt his foot and he left the game in which he set the record a little early.
Yep.
But you're right, I'm with you. Even that game where he sets the record, it's like, oh, he's the greatest of all time, which was really just an incredible occasion, I know. But as Stan Van Gundy said during the telecast, he said, this is a really big game for the Lakers. And they lost. And then they play the Bucks and LeBron's not there. And then they play and he's not there. Yeah, they make these trades. At some point, there's no selection committee that's going to say, we like them, you're in. You have to win some of these games, and they're running out of time to do that.
Exactly. And I liked their moves at the deadline.
Me too.
We can get into that here in the final half of the program as we'll reopen up the phone lines at 888-957-9570. I think the West got a lot better.
Yes.
I think the Lakers got better. I think the Clippers got better. I think the Mavs got better.
Even Memphis.
Phoenix obviously got better.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll have to see how everything shakes out as far as all of that goes. Let's go back to the phones, though, and it's D in San Jose next here on Warriors This Week. What's going on, D?
Hey, guys. I'm just so tired of people just bandwagoners criticizing James Wiseman. I mean, he was great in his first year playing free. With very little structure. And then he got hurt, and then the second year he got hurt. He was still hurt. And then, they shut him down towards the end before the playoffs. And then this year, he only had a few games, and then he came back after the G League, and we saw some pretty good improvement in defense, and his easy scoring is serves like a balanced, symbiotic way with the die with threes mentality of the team. And we've seen numerous games where the threes don't happen, with the team. So I don't understand this blaming. I mean, I think there's a very failure on the part of Kerr and the system to not adapt, change a little bit of their system, and adapt and integrate with James and his development, because he can bring so much to the team as a whole.
Yeah, no, thanks for the call and appreciate it. The truth is he played well his first year, and D said it, Whitey, playing free without structure. And that Warriors team had no expectations. It was just, get him out. It just, when he had to fit his game in the context of winning basketball in the Warriors system, it didn't fit, and it didn't work, and it didn't work with Steph Curry, which he is the franchise, as Kevin Durant said, he is the system. You can't play with Steph Curry. You can't play for the Warriors. And I think that's where this thing ultimately got to as the Warriors made a decision on Wiseman. And then the other part of it is, this is how I'll kick it to you, why should the Warriors have to adjust their system when they just won the NBA championship
doesn't make any sense.
And they have
–
future Hall of Fame, like for James Wiseman.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't work that way.
I've made that point too. Yeah.
Like why would that, like that's not how it works. He's got to be good enough to be, if he's Kawhi Leonard in 2014, then you adjust your system, which is what the Spurs did. But James Wiseman isn't that.
Right. And I think it boils down to this with Wiseman, and I appreciate D listening. I really do. I don't know how being critical of Wiseman's play makes you, bandwagon jumper, but that's fine. I really do appreciate that he takes the time to call. I think we're all guilty of just in basketball, we always look too much at offense, not enough at defense. And I think with Wiseman, that's what it boils down to. It's not hard to find games, moments, even certain stats that show that, wow, you know what? Some of his numbers are decent. Why, shot a high percentage. Why didn't they get more chances? But at the other end, which is so important to the Warriors, especially from the center position, he's a really bad defensive player, really bad to the point where, well, you got to give him time to learn it. No, he hurts them when he's on the floor defensively. Now, I know he had a pretty good game, actually, at times defensively on Christmas against Memphis, but for the most part, he really has hurt them defensively. They haven't been able to keep him on the floor because you can't get stops and teams attack him. And that's the bottom line. Why don't they give Wiseman more time? Why haven't they done this or that? It's because defensively, he has been really, really too poor for them to keep on the floor, JD. And I'm sorry, and I don't have anything against him. People say, what do you got? What did he ever do to you? That's why they can't play him. He's been a terrible NBA defender.
And offensively, he just, on paper, looked like he could be a complimentary fit, but when you actually watched him play, he really didn't complement what the Warriors did. If anything, he took the Warriors out of what they did. He wanted to shoot pick and pop threes and post up and call for the ball, and that's not what the Warriors do that makes them effective with the player movement and the ball movement system that they run. Ray in San Francisco next here on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Ray.
Good morning, fellas. Love the conversation. Regarding this last call right now, I couldn't disagree anymore. When you're a championship caliber team like the Warriors, you don't have patience to develop someone so raw. Offensively, he's a talent. Defensively, he's definitely a liability, and they just didn't have the patience for that. In regards to the trade, I got to tell you, fellas, as a Warrior fan, I'm very deflated. You got a lot of teams in the West, especially the very top teams right now, the first, I think, up to 1 to 4th seed or 5th seed, they all got better, and we're over here debating about a situation where should we keep this trade and get Gary Payton Jr., which definitely he makes a difference, but there's a possibility he's going to be out for 3 months. That pretty much means he's not going to do anything for us. And then we have a situation where do we cancel the trade and bring Wiseman back that we know we're not going to use and we're probably going to look to, get rid of in the offseason. So it's just kind of a situation where it's kind of, I don't see a win-win at all in this scenario. But for my vote, I would definitely, in this situation, you can't bring Wiseman back because eventually you're going to have to trade him and get rid of that salary, or get some salary break there. But I would keep the trade, and I like what the other callers said. If they could get a little something back from Portland to make up for the situation, that would definitely make a big difference. And fellas, lastly, I just want to get your opinion. Sorry to change the topic. Can someone tell me how Sean Marks of Seattle, New Jersey, the Nets, still has a job? You got Harden, you got Kyrie Irving, and the biggest superstar, Kevin Durant, and you trade all these guys. You did not get one superstar back?
Yeah, that's tough. And thanks for the call. You want to go last one first there. I think in some ways Sean Marks gets a pass because it's a star-driven league, and these guys didn't want to be there. And they, meaning Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, although Brooklyn worked with Durant to find his new home in Phoenix, they cratered their own value based on the way that all three of them really handled their respective situations with it getting out that they wanted. That at that point, when a superstar player wants out and everybody knows they want out, you can get lowballed. And you're also at the mercy of wanting to be considered a high-level franchise moving forward. So there's a pressure to feel like you're doing right by the player, even though the player is kind of screwing you over. And that's just an ugly, ugly part of the league where these guys right now run it. And it doesn't matter if you sign them to a 4-year max deal. They'll sign the deal and be like, I want out anyway, and you kind of have to trade him. That's one of the big problems in the league overall.
I think the answer to that question, Ray and JD, in my opinion, is that, yeah, I agree with you, JD. There's only so much you can hold against him because he did bring in, you got Kyrie and Durant, and then Harden comes in, and they were only together, I think it was 36 games with that. I thought it was less than that, but I thought I heard that they played 36 games together. And I thought it was less than that. But then you have these guys, and could that team win a championship? Maybe, but we just have to see what happens. And you had Kyrie, and he didn't want to get vaccinated. Harden getting tired of that, so then he wants out. And then everything with Kyrie and then Durant, he had injuries. So I don't think you can hold that against Sean Marks. You put that together. Let's see what – and some of that was just, Kyrie and Durant wanted to do it. Let's see what happens. I think all things considered, you're right, he didn't get any superstars back. But I think all things considered, given that he was kind of over the barrel, I thought he did pretty well with the returns they got for Kyrie and Durant. I really did. Maybe I'm in the minority, but I thought he did a pretty decent job of getting something back for them that had some value for them going forward.
Well, they had to pivot 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah.
And he did. And yeah, it wasn't perfect. And I still don't think it's perfect. And they had given up so much draft capital in the future that they kind of wanted to stay as good as they possibly could. Yeah. In the moment, and it's just a brutal situation, I think, for him to be put in. As far as Ray said, he was deflated by the trade deadline, and I think that's a really fair way of looking at it. If you're a Warriors fan, just looking at all of the teams that got better, and the fact that the Warriors believed that they were doing the best they could to get better in the short term, while also moving off of Wiseman, who clearly didn't fit. But now it's, Phoenix got Durant and Dallas got Kyrie.
Yeah.
And the Clippers rebuilt their bench completely with Bones Highland and Plumlee and Eric Gordon. And so you've got these teams that were already in front of you in the standings and already believed that they could be contenders with the right moves. And now they've separated, and you're wondering whether or not you should trade the number 2 pick in the draft 2.5 years ago for an 8th or a 9th man that's going to play 17 to 20 minutes a game if he's healthy, and he's, for the most part, proven not to be healthy more than he has. It is a tricky spot. I also loved Ray's point about the Warriors not having the patience for Wiseman's development. I mean, that ultimately is what it boiled down to.
It's patience and also just the money, because as we said earlier, a lesser team could afford to bring him back next year. And so maybe it'll happen next year in the Warriors with the salary crunch they're facing because they've been so successful. That's really risky for them to pay James Wiseman. What would it be? Close to 80? Well, not pay him, but to pay $80 million next year to hope that maybe next year he finds it. So that was a big part of it as well. And again, it is a kind of deflating deadline. I think the Warriors, again, are hoping from a PR standpoint that bringing in GP2 helps people feel a little better about the fact that they didn't do anything close to what some of those other teams did. But maybe they had a shot at OG Anunoby. Maybe people would feel better if they'd done that, but that would have been just really, really pricey. They would have had to give up a lot, like Kuminga and maybe 2 or 3 picks plus more to get Anunoby. So here we are. I understand how Ray feels. Yeah, wow, look what the other teams did. And the Warriors just do where they are right now, don't have the flexibility to entertain moves like that.
I would have looked at Anunoby. I would have looked hard at Anunoby, and I know that would have been I know that would have been a mortgage the future kind of a deal, and obviously they would have wanted Kuminga. But I look at in the short term, and I think there is, we don't know, and I think sort of the way to look at it is, Kuminga is talented enough, and I think valued enough right now around the league to where the Warriors can get a player that's like OG Anunoby right now is a better player than Jonathan Kuminga.
Yes, so, no question.
Can you get a better player for Kuminga than Kuminga right now because he's young and developing and projects to be high? And the Warriors could have done that if they included other things in the deal. to me, and that would have been a real go all in now because you would have been trading draft picks in addition to Kuminga. But there's a part of me, man, that was thinking, I mean, you got Steph, Clay, Wiggins, Draymond, Looney, Poole, DiVincenzo, Anunoby. I mean, that, and now you got somebody that can finish. Anunoby can finish with those other four. You take Looney off the floor. You got guys that can help defend the Kyries and the KDs and some of the wing players on Denver. Like that would have been a move that I think would have vaulted the Warriors legitimately into title contention again.
JD, I think that was going to be their answer. That was what they were looking at, and you say you would look hard at it. And according to CJ Holmes in the Chronicle, they were, I think the term was they pushed hard. They made a hard push to acquire Anunoby. Ultimately, what it came down to was an asking price of Kuminga and others plus picks. So the Warriors, I think that was going to be their answer. People like Ray are not going to be feeling deflated because we're going to get Anunoby, but ultimately came down to, wow, that is just too much to give up right now. And I wonder how much of that was the Warriors' unwillingness to give up Kuminga. That's what that was the big deal they wanted to make, and they just decided, nope, it's too much.
I might have done it. And again, without knowing the full context of the deal, I can't say for sure, but I might have, if you could have got Anunoby and it would have been Kuminga and a couple of picks, I might have done it. Because I think with Steph and Clay and still potentially having Draymond around, I think that would have put you in a back in that top tier, assuming that you could get healthy. All right, let's pause here. 888-957-9570. We'll come back. We'll reset everything. What do the Warriors do as far as the deadline, which is tomorrow, as far as accepting or rescinding the Gary Payton, James Wiseman 4-team deal? It's all coming up right here on 95.7 The Game.
You know what? Let's throw a party this year for the big game.
Hey, we can invite our friends over and all take turns yelling at the TV during the game.
But first, we should get a new TV.
Yeah, like one of the top-rated brands, Samsung, LG, or Sony.
Okay, so I'll start shopping on the internet, then head over to the Warehouse Club to compare.
But if that's all we do, we'll be sorry.
Why?
Because the best deals on those top-rated TVs are at Video Only, not online or at the club.
Video Only has better deals?
Yep. We could save up to $500 if we shop smart.
Then we could afford a larger model and really impress our friends.
At Video Only, you won't find huge stores with refrigerators or microwaves, but you will find the best deals on top-rated TVs, soundbars, and monitors. Shop around. Just make sure you visit Video Only, because if you don't,
you'll be sorry.
In Mountain View, San Mateo, Union City, Dublin, and San Rafael. Video Only.
Visit Friedman's Appliance in Pleasant Hill to see Signature Kitchen Suite's full line of luxury built-in appliances, including the first Pro range on the market with built-in sous vide, induction, and gas all on one cooktop. And now it's easier to build the kitchen of your dreams with the Dream Suite Savings Program with additional bonus rebates. You can see all of the Signature Kitchen Series appliances displayed beautifully in live working vignettes at Friedman's Appliance in Pleasant Hill or at friedmansappliance.com.
DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 57, has all the Super Bowl action. New customers can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus, all customers can get in on the Super Bowl 57 excitement with DraftKings Happy Hour Super Boosts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code UPONGAME. New customers can bet $5 on Super Bowl 57 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's code UPONGAME only at DraftKings Sportsbook. 21 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Eligibility and deposit restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. Bonus issued as bonus bets. Opt-in required for odds boosts. Bet type and amount limits vary. Eligibility and terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/football terms.
At Right Way Garage Doors, we consider what we do inspired craftsmanship. Our design pros are artists, using wood, glass, and metal as their brushes, your home, their canvas, all inspired by your vision. Right Way Garage Doors has been delivering the highest quality work with the right value and the right customer experience for 42 years. Check out their blowout sale. For a limited time, receive 15% off your garage door purchase, plus qualify for up to 24 months no-interest financing. Call 877-DOOR-808 or visit rwgaragedoors.com.
Join us at Odyssey as we all do our one thing, together millions of things for our planet. Give your sweetheart an experience rather than a gift, like a night out for dinner or a couple's massage. When we each share our one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
Progressive presents Adjusting to the Suburbs. You just bought a home in the suburbs, but no one told you about all the birds, specifically this one, who seems to be calling out Roy. Roy. But who exactly is Roy? And why doesn't he ever respond? Maybe Roy is just bird speak for save with Progressive by bundling your home and auto. I guess until Roy answers, we'll never know. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided in service by affiliates and third-party insurers.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
Jelly. Jelly adjective. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Nature Valley has helped restore access to 10,000 miles of national park trails. And we're on our way to restoring even more, because every mile is a new memory. Life happens out there. Nature Valley.
Other banks go out of their way to make redeeming credit card rewards needlessly complicated. But Discover isn't like that. With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount, at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Duran Duran returns to the Bay Area May 28th with special guests Nile Rodgers and Chic and Bastille. Don't miss Duran Duran, the Future Past Tour, May 28th at SAP Center San Jose. Tickets on sale Thursday at Ticketmaster.com.
The breaking news is that the Warriors are sending James Wiseman to the Detroit Pistons for Saddiq Bey.
Saddiq Bey, who comes in and immediately is a playable piece, somebody who can come in and play some defense, some good perimeter defense. The Warriors add a depth piece. Now,
hold on. Do we have more on this? Now Saddiq Bey is going somewhere else? Okay.
I never thought Saddiq Bey would fit here, Mark.
Wait. The Warriors have acquired Saddiq Bey, and the Warriors have traded Saddiq Bey. That was fast.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Oh, Dibs.
Yes, it was a fun moment from Willard and Dibs on Thursday as the news did officially break, and it looked for a moment like the Warriors were getting Saddiq Bey for James Wiseman. Then it looked like they were getting 5 second-round picks for James Wiseman in what would be a salary dump. At one point, I had tweeted out, Whitey, did the Warriors really just salary dump James Wiseman for nothing? And it looked like that was the case, although as more details continued to follow in, it appeared that there would have to be a player that the Warriors would take back in some form. That wound up being Kevin Knox from Atlanta, and then is Kevin Knox the space-filling player as far as the salaries to lead to this dump? And then he goes to Portland along with the 5 picks they got from Atlanta. It becomes this 4-team deal that is essentially Gary Payton II for James Wiseman. And I was excited about the Saddiq Bey proposition. I was kind of with Dibs initially.
Well, there's also this. I think we've all learned now that you never assume anything is going to happen until we've got the physicals passed, right? We've learned that. We've learned it again.
Well, this trade was announced. Like, they actually sent the emails out for this trade, which is crazy. Something the Giants didn't do on Correa for point of reference.
Yeah, keep this in mind as we're trying to figure out here what happens now because GP2 failed his physical. As far as I know, as of yesterday anyway, James Wiseman had not taken his physical. So I'm not suggesting we need to be concerned about that. I'm just saying things being where they are these days in the Bay Area, We'll just wait and see. Hopefully he's fine and there will be no issue there, but we'll just have to wait and see before passing final judgment.
Yeah, and so the Warriors, 72 hours from when the trade was official in the league office view, so sometime tomorrow afternoon or evening, the Warriors will have to decide based on the failed physical designation whether they waive the failed physical designation, which means the entire 4-team deal goes through, or the Warriors with the failed physical designation can veto the trade. That means everybody goes back to where they were. Wiseman comes back to the Warriors, GP to Portland. The 5 picks go back to Atlanta with Sadiq Bey going back to Detroit. Like, it all goes back as it was, and because the deadline is passed, no new deal can be consummated at that point. So the simple question on the board, what do the Warriors do with this trade? Do they push it through or do they veto it? Reports indicating that Gary Payton II could be out between 2 and 3 months. I know there was a later report, I believe, from NBC Sports Bay Area that it could be more like a month to a month and a half.
Right.
I'm of the belief, Whitey, and we disagree a little bit on this, and it has been a ticket splitter for the Warrior fan base. I'm of the belief that I would veto the trade if I'm the Warriors. To me, it's a win-now move, but if Gary Payton isn't healthy, it isn't worth it. Also, Payton, with his injury history, the 4 or 5 surgeries, as Payton said, in the last 5 or 6 years, I'm worried about Payton's deal and the remainder of the $26 million contract that he signed in the offseason over the next 2 years, and him just not being healthy enough to contribute even over the course of the next 2 years. He's had multiple surgeries. He's continued to pop up with health issues. And for me, Wiseman's not playing anyway, but you could at least reserve the right to potentially trade Wiseman again in the offseason for a piece that could be more useful than an injured Gary Payton II if he can't help you at all. The Warriors wanted GP2 to help them make a push here down the stretch and in the playoffs. If this team had a better record, I'd view it a little bit differently. But, yeah, we disagree on it.
Yeah, I agree with you that if he can't play, I'm not saying just get him no matter what. I think I'm willing to assume some risk with his injury.
He can't.
Yeah.
We know he can't play, right? We know he's out at least a month.
Right now, I know. But what I'm saying is if there's he's done for the year, you might get him back in May, then I understand where you're coming from. But if there's reason to think he'll be ready to go, he'll be back, he won't be back for a while, then I would make the trade. So that's where we disagree. It's a subtle difference, but I think it's a significant one. There's also, as far as a shot of Toradol, I mean, Craig and I, we give each other Toradol shots before the show all the time, so be that as it may. But in all seriousness, the surgeries that he's had, JD, I don't know if they're the same thing. I don't know, and I think that's an important point, too, and I've been looking for that. If he's had 5 core surgeries, which I don't think he's had, that's a red flag. If he's just had various surgeries on his fingers, so I don't know. That's something that I think we need to know, too, as we discuss his health. But again, as I say, you have to wait to see who passes their physicals before passing final judgment on all these teams. And I know this one's a special situation, but all these deals that teams are making, we can't really pass final judgment on anybody's trade deadline moves until we find out what people are going to do in the buyout market. The Warriors probably will be a player in that. I'm not sure if there's significant if there's significant help that's going to be available there, though.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. We're with you until 1 o'clock here. It's John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason on 95.7 The Game. What should the Warriors do? The question of the day. I would veto the trade. Sounds like Whitey would push through with it. I know a couple people passed along.
Make the deal.
Yeah, I was looking at Payton discussing his own recovery issues from a number of the injuries. I think it was a story from The Athletic going back where Payton said the night that he came back with Portland this year, as far as his recovery and the different surgeries, it is what it is. Probably my 4th or 5th surgery in the last 5 or 6 years. It's at the point that it's best. It's going to be for this year. Just got to thug it out was the quote from
I saw that.
GP2. And it's interesting because that's his own words on the matter. But then you have the reporting of Portland pushing him to take the Toradol shots, pushing him to come back and play through the injury, while now we come to find at the same time trying to dress him up as a healthier player than he really was in the Warriors' eyes. It's a bad look for Portland. I know we've had a lot of people, Whitey, that have said, well, the league needs to step in, and maybe they do as far as more compensation or the like. But the reality of the situation is the Warriors do have recourse here, and the recourse is don't do the deal. Like, a deal is agreed to, the physicals go through, and that's where, again, at this point, I would be reluctant to do the deal. I would veto the trade and bring Wiseman back, and it's awkward and it's uncomfortable, and it's unfair in a sense to Wiseman, but the Warriors don't owe fairness to Wiseman.
I agree with that.
I think you could make the case that, all right, James, will trade you in the offseason and move forward at that point and try to get, the Warriors are already, they would accept a bench player in return for James Wiseman. To me, you can get a bench player for James Wiseman in the offseason somehow, some way. So all of those things on the table. You want to sneak in a couple of calls here real quick?
Yeah, I know we got Jack wants to talk to us and Charles as well, JD.
Yeah, all right, let's get Jack in here before the top of the hour. 888-957-9570. What's up, Jack?
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Good, Jack.
Good.
What's up?
I'm probably like you guys and a lot of Warriors fans. I'm pretty stressed out right now. My big question to you guys is, if we bring Wiseman back, I don't really feel like that's going to influence our playoff chances anyways, and I'm concerned about his trade value going into the summer, just with every team knowing that we want to move him. Do you think we can even get a player like GP2 back or a good role player for him in the offseason is my big question.
I don't. I think we disagree on that, too.
Yeah, I know. I do. And I think that all has to be weighed if you don't feel you can get a player as good as GP2 back. And I think, part of why it worked for the Warriors to get GP2, Whitey, was the fact that they knew what a healthy GP2 brings to the Warriors. Like that's where if he was healthy and projected to be healthy moving forward from now, okay, do the deal. Wiseman was still a whiff, and you're owning the whiff, and you're getting a player that you think can help this team this year and the next couple of years. If he was healthy, it would be a nothing to see here. We'd be coming on talking about, would you have done the trade or not? But I would have been for the trade at that point, acknowledging that Wiseman just wasn't going to work out. The injury component, though, changes it for me because I feel a big part of this deal is having Payton's ability to play now. Like, this was a win-now move,
yes, I know.
And you can't win now.
Right, but I'm assuming that if my doctors look at him and say, you know what, he's going to be back before the end of the season, then I still have to consider how much better he would make me given what my other choices are. I could get Payton back for a good chunk of this year. Again, I don't know that. I'm assuming that. I don't know that, but if that's the case, or I can have Wiseman around, because Wiseman's just not going to play. Steve Kerr is not going to play him. He doesn't help my chances to accomplish anything this year. And I think his value, if anything, it was already low, and I think it craters if I'm trying to trade him after everyone knows I already tried to get rid of him for a player who was hurt at the time. So that's why I think it's still smart to make this deal, unless, and I'm agreeing with you, if they say Payton, he might not play. There's a very good chance he's out till May, because then I might not get him at all. So then I'm with you, but otherwise I make this deal.
2 months would be play-in tournament from today. If he was out 2 months, he would not play a regular season game. The regular season ends on April the 9th, so we're already beyond that point. And, if it ends up 2.5, 3, if it ends up 3, we're talking second round of the playoff.
I know.
Conference, borderline conference finals at that point. And so, is this Warriors team good enough to withstand that? Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. 888-957-9570. 888-957-9570. It's John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason here on 95.7 The Game. You know what? Let's get Charles in El Cerrito. Charles, you're up next here on Warriors.
Yeah, thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. Yeah. Great conversation, and I think you both, Whitey and John, are raising good points. The one issue that hasn't been discussed is the third year on Gary Payton II's contract, which is a player option, and the impact that they may have long-term if he stays injured and unable to contribute. I know we're talking about the next couple of months, but I would void the deal if he's hurt and don't know the history, as John. But nobody said anything about the player option and how it may affect the Warriors, even salary cap-wise, by taking that $9.1 million at the time.
Yeah, I think they're assuming that he would be an opt-in player. Whitey. I mean, and especially, and here's the thing. Here's how player options work. If a player's unproductive or injured, they opt in. Yeah. If a player's awesome and you want to keep them, they opt out. I mean, Dante DiVincenzo has a player option for next year. Well, Dante DiVincenzo, the Warriors got him on a nice deal. I think $4.5 million. It was a deal where I think DiVincenzo wanted to come here, be on a big stage, contribute to a team that could win a title, and be so good that he can get paid elsewhere. Like Dante DiVincenzo's played his way out of the Warriors' price range. He's played well enough to where he probably opts out, even though the Warriors would love to keep him. So I think that's an interesting part. So to me, though, if part of why I would veto the deal is the concern that I would have in the now, as we've discussed, but also the next 2 years. Like if Peyton can only play half the time or less in the next 2 years and he's making $8-9 million a year, that ain't going to work anyway. That ain't going to work either.
Yeah, who are we talking about here? And that's a great point, by the way. Thank you for that. I didn't realize he had a third year that's a player option, and then the next year he's the unrestricted free agent. Great point. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Is Gary Payton a guy who's recovering from an injury who, like, Dame Lillard last year, had this core muscle surgery, and Dame Lillard is, he struggled a bit at times this year, but it looks like, wow, he's Dollar Dame again. Or is this guy a younger, a smaller player who's starting to break down? Was this just the latest in a series of injuries for him? In that case, I don't want him. But obviously the doctors have more information on that, and that's absolutely critical to this decision. If we're bringing in a GP2 who is starting to physically break down, then no, shame on you, Portland. We're not making this deal. But if it's a guy who, he had this injury, but there's every reason to think he'll be good to go within the next month or so, then I'm definitely making this deal. But nobody knows. It's possible he doesn't even know that, but that's the absolute key to this whole thing for the Warriors.
No, if he's able to come back and be healthy, then to me, I would be accepting of the deal. Again, if the Warriors were a better team and could wait for him to be back, like if this was last year where the Warriors had enough of a cushion to where it was a good bet they could get to the middle of the playoffs, then I think, all right, you can wait for him. I'm just not sure it's worth waiting around for a guy that can't necessarily get the job done. You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM. And HD1 San Francisco and Odyssey Station. It's JD and Whitey here on 95.7 The Game, 888-957-9570. It's Warriors This Week as the Warriors and the Lakers go tonight. No LeBron James in that one for the Lakers. No Steph Curry for the Warriors, obviously. And, hey, so it goes, Whitey, another ABC Saturday Night Showcase with a couple of big stars not playing. Woo, NBA.
I'm trying to figure out why the Lakers are so happy when LeBron's hurt. I know he broke the record. That's great. I think they're just so glad that Russell Westbrook's gone. Even though they're losing some of these games, I think they're still kind of, woo, this is a relief to be without Russ. But we'll see where he ends up. He could end up with the Clippers.
Yeah, that would be fascinating to see. I like what the Clippers did with Eric Gordon and Bones Highland and Mason Plumlee. I think he helps. I think all three of those help. And I question whether the Clippers had the depth with as frequently as they give Kawhi Leonard and Paul George nights off to be able to make a run. I think this gives them a much, much, much better chance. Gene in Oakland next. 888-957-9570. What's going on, Gene?
Gene the Machine.
Hey, fellas. Good morning.
Good morning.
So, look, I've kind of gone back and forth on this in the last day or so that this has come up. But at this point, I think I'm leaning more your way, Whitey. First of all, I don't know that we can do any better, in terms of a trade for Wiseman. Frankly, I was pleasantly surprised that we could get somebody as good as GP2, assuming he's healthy, of course, for Wiseman. So that's the first part of it. The other part, of course, is, like you say, we have to see. We have to get all those medical experts to put their heads together and decide, is this a 1 or 2 months, or frankly, even if he doesn't help us this year. But they say, he's good to go and he'd be 100% next year. And it looks like the prognosis is that he can be back to what he was, moving forward. I'd still make that trade. So I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
Thanks, Gene. Hey, JD, there's also this. I'm wondering, and pardon me there, but I want to know what you think of this, dovetailing off Gene's point. The Warriors, obviously, they've got to be a little bit sensitive to public perception here. And, we saw how people just turned on the Giants. And even though people, I think some of us have had to say, okay, we understand why they backed off of the Correa deal, I still think that did some damage to them and the perception of the brand. So if you're the Warriors, like, okay, we're trading Wiseman, and, that leaves a mark because he was your second pick. You get Peyton back, and people love Peyton, so that mitigates some of that. But then if, wow, you traded Wiseman and you got snookered by a Portland team that gave you damaged goods, I mean, you got to guard against that perception because that also damages your brand. And that's, you want to be considered this team that's still light years ahead of everybody, not the team that's being taken advantage of because you made a bad pick.
100%. And look, if the Warriors do choose, and I'm going to reiterate this point, if they do choose to move forward and accept the deal for an injured Gary Payton, then to me, they deserve more scrutiny as to everything related to Peyton's health when he comes back. Does he help him this year? Does he help him next year? And I even think it puts him more on the hook for James Wiseman's future, to be honest, because they were willing at that point to trade Wiseman for a player that they knew had the potential to not help them. And we can all quibble about what the true value was and this and that. We know they could have gotten Sadiq Bey at the deadline for him. Like, we know that. Like, they chose to flip this into Gary Payton II. And I'll be honest with you, as much of a fit as he is when he's healthy, I think part of Gary Payton II being the guy was that Gary Payton II's name hit in a more positive manner among the fan base. Like, I do think there was a PR component to everybody loves GP2. And that makes, that made everybody feel better as opposed to, you just traded James Wiseman for an eighth or a ninth man. And whereas if it had been a random, again, pick a name, if it had been, Terrence Davis, or I think people would have been
100%.
Thought
agree
about
with
it
you.
a little bit differently than they did there. All right, 888-957-9570. Jose in Oakland is next here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Jose?
Hey, what's up, fellas? How you guys doing?
Good. What's up, Jose?
Good.
Hey, so my take on this is we keep GP2. We probably be optimistic, be ready for like a month. That's probably around the time Curry be back. And in the meanwhile, we get somebody from the buyout market. Is that probably something possible? Do you think Warriors have enough cap space money for that? What's your guys' take on that?
Yeah, I think they definitely need to look in the buyout market. I know Terrence Ross is getting bought out by Orlando. It sounds like he's going to Dallas, according to the earlier reports. Russell Westbrook potentially, Dario Saric maybe at OKC. He's a
good
Dwayne
player.
Dedmon is a big as well, and I think the buyout market is going to be pretty robust as far as if the Warriors want to make moves, whether it's the big or a guard type. Although the Warriors don't really need a combo guard, I will say that the Warriors don't really need a Westbrook a combo guard, Reggie Jackson a combo guard. Like, the Warriors don't need a combo guard per se. They need somebody that could defend at a little bit of a different level. Whitey.
Here's what Monty Poole wrote about that, NBC Sports Bay Area, and not to aggregate, but this is as we're talking about it. And Monty Poole obviously knows the Warriors as few do. 5 names he threw out there: Dwayne Dedmon, no thanks. Gordon Hayward, what? Serge Ibaka.
Bring it if. Yeah. Go ahead.
Serge Ibaka, Kevin Love, who I know everyone says, he's going to be on the buyout market, and I don't think that he is, and then Nerlens Noel. So, again, just to give you an idea from an expert, Monty Poole, on some guys who could be available. So there are some guys, could see maybe some size there, but it's not like you're going to find the guy who's like, oh, boom, that's it, we're in now. You can help yourself here, and other teams will be looking to help themselves. Remember, some of these guys now, they will have a choice. And you've got a place in Phoenix now that all of a sudden is a destination. So the Warriors may have more competition when it comes to some of these players, but that's just 5 names, kind of an odd collection of names of guys who could be available for the Warriors in the buyout market.
888-957-9570. I mean, if Gordon Hayward's available, go get Gordon Hayward. Like that. I mean, I don't think he's going to be available. But you're right. There are teams that I think, based on what they've done to improve themselves, that would be more attractive than the Warriors potentially at this point. Phoenix, obviously, among them with Durant. Everybody's going to want to go where Durant goes, and they look like the Western Conference favorite, assuming Durant is healthy. Them or Denver, I think, at this point. I would view, not to get lost in the winners and losers, and maybe we do this in the last 45 minutes of the show, but I feel like Memphis was a loser at the trade deadline, just based on the fact that everybody else got better and they were already having their own problems as far as, they had slipped a little bit, and seems like there's some weird stuff going on. They've had injury issues. So I think, Denver likes where Denver was with their team. Phoenix obviously thinks they can win a title now. Dallas believes they're better. The Clippers think they're better. We'll see what happens with the Warriors. I think the big loser among the Western Conference quote-unquote contenders is potentially Memphis.
I like what Memphis did, and I understand your point, and I don't disagree with you. Things have been trending the wrong way for them on a number of fronts. And they didn't do anything drastic, which maybe they needed to. And, everyone's pointing out, maybe Ja doesn't feel like they're fine in the West anymore. Kennard, who they acquired, does address a need, and I think he's already been playing for them. At times, their shooting just breaks down, and he's a good shooter. I don't know that it's enough. It is a nice fit. At least they addressed a need there. I'm also wondering about the Nuggets, who are having a fine year, and they got Thomas Bryant to back up Jokic. He's not a great defender, but he's having a decent year. But losing Bones Highland, and I know he had to go because he and Mike Malone, there was real friction there. They lost a guy who's been a contributor there. So with the other teams in the West that are behind Denver making some big moves, I'm not sure Denver did enough. Memphis did something that could help, but I understand where you're coming from. I think things were already starting to trend the wrong way for them, and I think they've kind of bumped up against their ceiling in Memphis.
Let's sneak in Nico in Oakland before we break here on 95.7 The Game. What's going on, Nico?
What's going on, JD? I want to piggyback on the last caller so far at the buyout market. From what I've been reading, I think I've seen this in Bleacher Report too, man, because Minnesota, they got rid of D'Angelo Russell, so they don't have a point guard. From what I've read in that article, the Clippers and Minnesota are competing for Reggie Jackson because he also became eligible in the buyout market. GP2 had the defense. So if they rescind this deal, why not go into the buyout market, keep James Wiseman, go get Patrick Beverly, who's also a guard dog, who guards guards. He can guard some of these forwards too, man. Him with Draymond, Wiggs, DiVincenzo, that increases your defense there. And it's just another option. I mean, even they can even possibly I think that other kid, Rashawn Holmes, who's with SAC, he's also eligible in the buyout market. So there's options for them to actually go get some more defense. And I think Patrick Beverly could fit that bill if they decide to rescind it.
Thanks for the call, Nico. I think Beverly's an interesting name. I'm not sure how much he has left in the tank. Maybe we talk about that on the other side. Quickly on Rashawn Holmes, though. Rashawn Holmes has got multiple years left on his deal. So if I don't know that SAC would want to buy out as much as it would take to buy him out because he has multiple years. Obviously, if he does, I think he would become an attractive candidate at the minimum for a number of different teams if SAC's going to pay the freight. But let's discuss that on the other side. We got some phone calls trickling in, some great text messages, 888-957-9570.
Let's go.
We roll on until 1 o'clock. It's JD and Whitey on 95.7 The Game.
Are you curious about who offers the best deals on top-rated Samsung, LG, and Sony TVs? The answer is surprising. It's not online, and it's not the warehouse clubs. The best deals on top-rated TVs are at Video Only. Don't believe it? Then check out the trade-in deals at Video Only. How about $500 for your old TV? Try doing that online. Before you buy that new TV, drop into Video Only. If you don't, you'll be sorry.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin. This is Matt Crowder live at the gas station on 41st Street reporting on those skyrocketing gas prices. Excuse me, miss. Are you buying less gas now because of the high prices?
Oh, I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
Well, does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200 $200.
Wow. Well, there you have it. Stop paying full price for gas. Download the free Upside app and get real cash back every time you buy gas. This is Matt Crowder Radio News Network. Download the free Upside app now to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code LANE for an extra 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code LANE for a 25 cents a gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code LANE.
Attention men, if you have ED, PE, or low libido, or if you're always tired, weak, and gaining weight, you could be suffering from low testosterone, a common condition in men over 40. Balanced Medical Solutions has helped thousands of men regain their vigor, stamina, and strength. Restore your performance in the gym and in the bedroom now. Receive a medical evaluation with blood tests and free follow-ups for only $99. Getting old is not a choice, but feeling old is. Call now, 510-679-3300, or visit balancedmedicalsolutions.com.
He's the best interview in the Bay Area.
Steve Kerr, Warrior head coach here on 95.7 The Game.
When those nights happen, I kick myself afterwards for not walking into the locker room and banging on the walls, during our pregame meeting and yelling, do you guys understand what's about to happen?
And he's on with Damon and Ratto every single week during the NBA season.
Wow.
Steve Kerr on 95.7 The Game. Presented by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet only from Xfinity.
You've got advanced prostate cancer, but you're not waiting around. You want straight talk to facts about Orgovix.
Orgovix Relagolix 120 milligram prescription tablets is a treatment for adults with advanced prostate cancer. Fact: Orgovix is a different kind of androgen deprivation therapy treatment, a pill, not an injection. Orgovix may cause serious side effects, including a heart condition called QT prolongation. Tell your doctor right away if you feel dizzy, faint, have a racing or pounding heart, or chest pain. Orgovix can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during treatment and for 2 weeks after Orgovix treatment. The most common side effects include hot flushes, increased blood sugar and blood fat levels, muscle and joint pain, decreased blood hemoglobin levels, increased liver enzymes, tiredness, constipation, and diarrhea. Other side effects include weight gain, decreased sex drive, and erectile function problems. Orgovix may cause infertility. Talk to your doctor if infertility is a concern for you.
Go with Orgovix. Ask your doctor. For more facts, visit gowiththefacts.com.
Hey, I'm Andy. If you don't know me, it's probably because I'm not famous. But I did start a men's grooming company called Harry's. The idea for Harry's came out of a frustrating experience I had buying razor blades. Most brands were overpriced, overdesigned, and out of touch. At Harry's, our approach is simple. Here's our secret. We make sharp, durable blades and sell them at honest prices for as low as $2 each. We care about quality so much that we do some crazy things, like buy a world-class German blade factory. Obsessing over every detail means we're confident in offering a 100% quality guarantee. Millions of guys have already made the switch to Harry's, so thank you if you're one of them. And if you're not, we hope you give us a try with this special offer. Get a Harry starter set with a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, shave gel, and a travel cover, all for just $3 plus free shipping. Just go to harrys.com and enter code JOY at checkout. That's harrys.com, code JOY. Enjoy.
Nachos! Yeah, your nachos!
Hey, I'll take some.
Great. And some Frank's Red Hot.
Oh, nah, I'm good.
Oh, you're just gonna eat these dry, plain, boring nachos with no Franks? Oh, seriously? Frank it up. Frank it up. Come on, lady. Frank it up. Frank it up. Frank it up. Yeah! Yeah, this guy finally gets it. Hey, look, we're on the Jumbotron.
It's the perfect blend of flavor and heat. Frank's Red Hot. I put that on everything.
When a cold comes on strong, knock it out with Vicks DayQuil Severe for max strength daytime relief. Just one dose of Vicks DayQuil Severe starts to relieve 9 of your worst cold and flu symptoms to help take you from 9 to none. Power through your day with Vicks DayQuil Severe. The daytime non-drowsy, coughing, aching, fever, sore throat, 9 to none medicine. Use as directed.
Jonas Knox here, and this message is brought to you by Discover. Did you know you could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection, the latest innovation from Discover? Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data, and they'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app, see terms, and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection. That's discover.com/online privacy protection.
I mean, they're different people, different staffs, different thresholds, I guess you would say. I mean, Rick Celebrini is noted to be not even just careful, but thorough, with his players. I mean, we've seen that over the last couple of seasons. So from my understanding that they don't believe this is an injury, he should be playing through, and that there needs to be some type of, rehab process that puts him in jeopardy to miss the season. Why there was a difference in opinion between Portland and the Warriors, I wasn't necessarily in the room, certainly in Portland's room, to know why they decided to have him play through it, but that is what could possibly blow up one of the biggest deals at the deadline.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
That's right. Anthony Slater of The Athletic on with Damon and Ratto last night here on 95.7 The Game as we welcome you back inside Warriors This Week. It's JD and Whitey. Full day of Warriors coverage here on 95.7 The Game with the Warriors and the Lakers tonight. Tip-off at 5:30. And yeah, just a difference of opinion between medical staffs, or was it something else, Whitey, with the Blazers trying to pawn off Gary Payton II as damaged goods in a trade, with some of the reports indicating that they were pushing Toradol shots and a quicker return than maybe Payton felt necessary, although we had the quote earlier that we read from the night Payton came back, 15 games ago, and it said that, it was time to thug it out. Mm-hmm. It said Payton specifically, so a little bit of a mishmash there. Clearly the Warriors not happy with where things stand, and they have until tomorrow to accept the terms of the trade or hold the whole thing up for all four teams involved.
First of all, thanks to you, and especially Tim Kawakami, who reported it today, tweeted it, as far as the deadline actually being tomorrow. I know there was a lot of information out there about today's the deadline, and yeah, it looks like it's a 72-hour thing as far as the league is concerned. If I'm representing the Blazers in anything here that goes before the league on this, I'm definitely, one of the things I'm holding up as evidence is, did you hear what Gary Payton said? Gary Payton said that. We didn't write that for him, that he said, I got to play through this. Now, I don't know what the truth is, and I don't care. I'm just trying to look at this objectively. The other thing is this, JD, if it's true that the Blazers tried to pull a fast one on the Warriors while they were giving Gary Payton, shots and telling you got to play. I mean, how in the world, if that's the case, maybe it was, how in the world did they think they would get away with that? It's just, the whole thing's mind-boggling. One thing that I think is clear is that Gary Payton definitely wants out of there. So, and bless him. Hopefully he can find his way out of there. But the Warriors are in a very sticky situation because I think we've done a good job of detailing how this involves not only basketball, but also, there's a PR aspect to this. Anytime you're moving off of the number 2 pick in the draft, and then you're bringing a guy who maybe he might not be able to play for us. So it's very, very thin ice that they're treading upon here as I try to make this decision. I hope ultimately that Gary Payton is deemed healthy enough for them to go ahead and make the trade. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, you asked the question, Whitey, how did Portland think they could get away with it? And I think part of it is knowing that Payton didn't really want to be in Portland. Yeah. I mean, let's just say it. I mean, Payton took more money, and nobody should blame him for that. Because we've all been, I think, at some points in this position in our life, do you want to take the most money you can when you have the opportunity and maybe be in a situation that you won't be as happy in, but you're going to grind through it because it financially helps you? Like, nobody would blame Payton for doing it, but it sounds like he did that. He would have preferred to be with Golden State. Portland wanted to offer him more money at the time, and he took the money, and I think, didn't really want to be there, but he did what he felt was best for him and his family and all of that. But I think Portland knew, Whitey, his affinity for the Warriors and the Warriors' affinity for him. So when you ask the question, how did Portland think they could get away with maybe a less than 100% Gary Payton II, I think some of it is, hey, let's put this guy in front of the Warriors. They love him more than anybody.
Yeah.
He wants to be there. Maybe they just let this thing go where another team wouldn't. And it looks now as if potentially the Warriors are going to let it go. So,
maybe.
And if that's the case, do you blame Portland for, I don't know. I mean, they had a player that maybe nobody else would have taken. The Warriors, as it turns out, may wind up taking him injured anyway.
There's also this.
It's still mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. It hinges on those medicals. You're right. There's also this. I think it's crystal clear now, and it was already apparent, and we've talked about it. you look at the Warriors' decisions they made before the season started in the offseason, and they had GP2 and they had, the young players, and it's like, oh, we can't afford to keep GP2. We don't want to spend that money on him, even though it was productive. Why not? Because as we've discussed, JD, as Warrior fans know, the plan was the young players are really going to step to the forefront more this year. And we're going to get more out of Kuminga and Wiseman and Moody, and they're going to become rotational players. And here they are to the point where, Kuminga's a rotational player, but Wiseman, forget his future, but just in terms of this year, the plan, and he just was not good enough to help them in the way that they planned. Moody, the same thing. So that's why they're kind of going backwards here. It's an admission that, we had a plan and it just didn't work out. And so we're better off doing this and bringing him back as much as he helps us. And our plan, our two-way plan, it just did not work. It was a bold plan, starting with drafting Wiseman second in the first place. And the plan, it failed. It was a risky plan and it failed. And we're making the best of it here with this trade.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. John Dickinson, Whitey Gleason, Warriors this week here on 95.7 The Game. We're getting a lot of questions coming in about, hey, can there be a buyout done? Can Portland be forced to waive him? Can parts of the trade be done and other parts not? Can the Warriors get Sadiq Bey? All of that stuff. And the answer to that, in short, is no. As far as what's been reported now, and it's multiple sources have written about this and spoken to the point that, no, it's all or nothing. The 72-hour window is for medicals to be reviewed, and the Warriors have the opportunity, if they don't like the medicals, to void the whole deal. It is unfortunate because there are 4 teams that all have things they want hinging on the Warriors at this point, but that's just the cost of doing business and having your deal bump up against the deadline. But it is all you're taking Gary Payton the second back and you're sending Wiseman out, or Wiseman's coming back and Payton's going to Portland and Knox is going to Atlanta and Bay's going back to Detroit, and all those second round picks go back into whoever held them to begin with.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. You could, in theory, if the Warriors say, no, we don't want to do this, in theory, I think Portland could buy out GP2, but if they did, then if you're the Warriors, like, we already rescinded the trade because he can't help us, so you wouldn't want him either way. So that wouldn't really address the problem from the Warriors' standpoint.
Well, wait a minute. Now, that's different. Like, if the Warriors rescinded the trade, and I don't think Portland would buy him out, obviously, so it's a hypothetical, but if the Warriors rescinded the trade and Portland did buy him out, and I mean, I would pay Gary Payton the minimum if I'm the Warriors for one season, because at that point, that's all they would have to do would be to pay. So, I mean, if I know that's not an extremely unlikely and non-existent scenario, but if you could get Gary Payton on the buyout market to come join your team because Portland's paying the freight, I think the Warriors would do that in a heartbeat and potentially wait for him.
Yeah, all I'm saying is, I understand that. All I'm saying is, if you move off of the trade because he's hurt and then he's available, okay, you can sign him, but he's not going to help you anyway. I mean, you're not going to. If he can't help you, then.
But the belief would be that he would be. Yeah. Maybe you wait to sign him until he is available. You could wait till the last day of the season at that point, and then if he's healthy, or he projects to be healthy at that point, you could sign him. Like, he could basically sit out at that point until he's healthy, and then you could sign him if he's healthy. Again, we're getting in the weeds as far as hypotheticals go, and that's extremely unlikely. But if he was just a free player to sign, go for it. At that point, it's just money. There's no other assets or anything tied to it.
I also want to say this about Wiseman because, and it's a very good chance now that he's moved on, and I have not been his biggest backer, but I just, in all fairness to those who have supported him and those who still believe in him, and again, it looks like Troy Weaver with the Pistons is definitely one of those. I know Steve Kerr has talked about how James Wiseman, he says, he is going to be able to score somewhere, and obviously the coach is putting a little bit of a happy face on it, but Steve Kerr has talked about how, when he's in his mid-20s, James Wiseman will be a productive NBA center, averaging somewhere in the 18-8 range if he's holding down a starting job. Actually, I think that's actually Anthony Slater. I apologize saying that. But based on some things Steve Kerr said, his offensive skill set makes sense away from the Warriors system. If given the opportunity, he will put up numbers. So I understand why people still think James Wiseman can be a player. I didn't see it, but I understand that he did show some promise here and there. Just bottom line for the Warriors is defensively, which is so important to them and the foundation of their championships, he just was not delivering, and it got to a point where they couldn't afford financially to wait for him to develop anymore.
No doubt. And I think Wiseman is going to be able to go score. I don't disagree with Slater's assessment. I think that's probably that is one of the worries, I think, if you're the Warriors in dealing Wiseman, and something that they'll have to be held accountable for depending upon how it plays out. If Wiseman does go to Detroit and averages 18 and 10 next year, then that's not going to look good for the Warriors. And ultimately it will depend on, well, what does Gary Payton II provide and all of that. But there is a very real possibility that Wiseman was never going to help the Warriors this year, next year, whatever, but goes on to look like a really productive player elsewhere and make the Warriors look like they made a mistake. Like, that is on the freaking table here, Whitey.
Here's what it comes down to from the Warriors standpoint. I apologize. Here's the Steve Kerr quote that I was looking for. Steve Kerr, when he was asked about why Wiseman's out of the rotation, Steve Kerr said, quote, "It's his defensive awareness. Offensively, we know he can score. This guy is always going to be able to score, regardless of what happens in the short term. If he stays healthy, he's going to have a good career and score a lot of points. But what we need is defensive awareness and the ability to patrol the paint, rim protect," end quote. And that's what the Warriors needed from James Wiseman, and they just have not gotten it from him since they drafted him.
No, and I think it was over for Wiseman with the Warriors essentially when they sent him down to the G League. Remember that press conference? I can't remember the game, but he hadn't been playing, and everybody's kind of wondering what was going on. And Kerr got asked about what's going on with Wiseman, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to send him down."
Yeah,
and to me that was, they got off to the 3-7 start, which I think that 3-7 start has affected everything. I say it every week on the show. That 3-7 start, I think they have just not been able to overcome that in any form. If they had won a couple of more of those games, if they had been 6-4 instead of 3-7, those close losses early in the year where the veterans were kind of coasting and they were giving up 130 a night, and it was just ugly, and the young players weren't helping them a lick. None of them were, and they get to 3-7. If they were 6-4 at that point, you look at, well, where would they be right now? 31-24. They're 31-24. They'd be tied for third in the West. And so we're talking about, and at that point, you might be okay hanging on to Wiseman, even if he's not playing a lot, or Kuminga, who has become more of a factor, or Moody. But all three of them, even Kuminga at that point, was a non-factor, and so that became problematic as well. To me, it was over for the Warriors and Wiseman in that moment where it was like, we're sending him down to the G League again. And then it looked like when he came back, he was starting to – injuries are such a huge part of this thing, because there were 3 or 4 different times where it looked like Wiseman was maybe turning a corner to where he was going to at least become playable. And this was 2 years ago, and even this year, I think. But every time there would be some kind of an injury, and then he would have to start the whole process over, to where we talked about it at the time when he got hurt there after he had been productive on that holiday homestand. It was, he sprains that ankle, and it's like, he's just not going to be able to come back because he's starting over at the point in which he comes back, and he wasn't going to help him this year.
Don't you think that it's possible we get a clue, and we'll get to Joe, thanks for checking in. We'll get to you just a moment here. 888-957-9570 if you want to check in on the Xfinity mobile text line. We might get a clue as to what the Warriors' thinking is tonight. I mean, for example, if James Wiseman plays tonight, then whether they announce something or not, they're rescinding the deal, right? I mean, I would think the Warriors would want, whether they announce it or not, the players would want to have some idea what they're doing if the team has made a decision before they play tonight. This is a very winnable game. I don't know if we'll be able to glean anything about their thinking from the game tonight, but it's possible we will.
Well, I think it's possible that the Warriors make their determination before the game, and that way they can address everything
right
and move, because it is going to be a cloak that hangs over everything.
Yeah.
If they don't make the decision today, and they're not obligated to, then it's going to be it's going to create a very awkward environment surrounding the game. Yep. So to me, they're going to. I mean, I don't think Wiseman was going to play regardless tonight.
Right.
But if they do make the announcement that they're rescinding the trade, obviously, then they can talk about it tonight. If they did in the next 3 hours do that, 3 or 4 hours, then Bob Myers could come to the podium in the Bill King interview room at Chase and acknowledge what the heck happened and why they're vetoing it or why they're accepting it. Either way, I mean, the decision can be made in the next 4 or 5 hours before tip-off, but it doesn't mean it will. But, yeah, there's an awkwardness to it. It wouldn't surprise me if the Warriors did do it before the game to just give everybody, especially if they're going to keep the deal in place. Like, there's nothing really to be, Payton's obviously wouldn't be playing. Wiseman wouldn't have been playing anyway. I think everybody had sort of accepted the fact that the deal was going to come through. So I think if you're leaning toward accepting it and there's no other compensation or anything that could come back, you might as well, that would be the scenario where I think they would announce it. To me, if they're vetoing it, it's probably going to dip into tomorrow.
That's why it's imperative. Of course, it always is, but it's imperative tonight to listen to all our Warrior coverage featuring JD pregame and postgame. You can't miss it tonight of all nights.
Yeah, 4:30 for Warriors Live. And if there is a Bob Myers press conference, assuming there's a resolution, obviously if there's no resolution to what the Warriors are going to do, there will not be. But if there is a Bob Myers press conference, we'll have it for you. We'll definitely run it during Warriors Live, which starts at 4:30. We'll also hear from Steve Kerr, although, again, unless there's a resolution, Steve Kerr, as he did yesterday. And that was really the first sign that something was hinky with the deal, potentially, was everybody goes to practice, and I think the thought was, hey, GP2 is going to be available to speak, and Steve Kerr is going to be able to speak to it. And Steve Kerr was like, I can't talk about it. And there were some Giants-y vibes to that whole thing with Correa in the sense that, because the trade had already been formally announced. It had been, the press release had gone out, and it was, the Giants didn't do that. They didn't send out, they sent out the hey, come to the press conference, but they didn't say what the press conference was specifically for. They did not send out an official, we've agreed to a deal with Correa email at that point yet. Even though it obviously had been agreed to and the medicals were a problem. But the first indicator that there was a potential problem was Steve Kerr's inability to talk about it, and when GP2 was not made available yesterday because the deal was official.
Even if the trade goes through and GP2 is healthy enough to participate and contribute reasonably soon, it's going to be tough for the Warriors to get to where they want to get to, the way the complexion has changed here in the Western Conference, JD. That's just the fact of the matter.
888-957-9570, 888-957-9570. It's John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason here on 95.7 The Game. Do we still have Joe in San Bruno?
We do. Joe is a Wiseman fan, and he's anxiously awaiting his turn.
Let's get to Joe. What's going on, Joe?
Hey,
How
Joe.
are you?
Hey, good. Thanks, guys. I hope I have a little credibility with you guys, because about 2 months before the Andrew Wiggins trade, I called into your show for the first time. I think with JD and Steiny, and I suggested a D'Angelo Russell, Andrew Wiggins trade, because I saw the salaries matched, and I hated Russell's defense. And I was bashed so badly for saying that Wiggins' defense was terrible, I didn't call into the show for 4 months. And Myers was fantastic. He not only did that trade, but he got a draft pick out of it, right? So my point is that when you guys, and I agree with...
Want to beat Kuminga, Joe.
Yeah. I agree with your caller who said, everybody seems to be a bandwagon, James Wiseman basher. And I don't believe he is a bad defensive player intrinsically. And I think what's missing here is that there's got to be some more long-term thinking, which Joe Lacob has. He's got a 20-year-old Kuminga, 21-year-old Wiseman, two incredibly talented players, very, very unusual for a championship team. And they've got an old team. They've got 15 roster spots. I think it's Kerr's fault for just being, so dogmatic about only wanting the best veteran players, sort of like he's molding to Phil Jackson here. So I think there was a chance that they're not great at it, but they can get better at trying to incorporate James Wiseman or Kuminga in the G League, whatever. But they have this need to get the team better and younger. They've got a very old team. And the other problem, of course, we all love GP2. But the other problem they have, let me ask you this question. At the end of the year, Draymond Green has this opt-in, opt-out situation you guys talked about. That gives him so much power. What do the Warriors do without Wiseman? No bigs, really. I mean, Kevon Looney, yes, we love Kevon Looney, what he is, but he's limited. They're at the mercy of what Draymond Green wants at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think, and thanks for the call. I think part of that, though, is the Warriors and a reason to continue with the Wiseman trade and the luxury tax savings that comes along with it, Whitey, would be that the Warriors would look to sign Draymond. Like, I think this is an indicator that the Warriors want to try and work out a deal with Draymond Green, whether it's an extension, he opts in, they do something later, they tack it on, he opts out, and then they do another deal. Like, I think all of this is an indicator that, hey, Draymond, they still think's got something left in the tank. And if Draymond's gone, the championship era is gone in my mind. So, you're not winning a title without Draymond Green. So to me, it behooves you to want to keep Draymond if you're the Warriors. And I think this would be another part, leading down the pathway toward trying to do that. The savings basically being redistributed to a Draymond deal, the luxury tax savings.
What we're talking about here, and thank you, Joe, some interesting points. I think we're talking about the fact that there's a pro sports truism that just does not apply to the NBA. Bill Walsh used to say it, and it was his guiding principle in putting together a roster, and it goes all the way back to the great Branch Rickey, who used to run the Dodgers. So it applies to baseball, applies to football. I just don't think it applies to the NBA, JD, and that is you're better off getting rid of a player a year early than a year too late. Because you look at the Warriors now and the players they have and the veterans, and we've seen this with great teams. A truly great player in the NBA is so rare and so impactful and so hard to replace that I think your best move when you have truly great players, I'm not talking about pretty good players, like Carmelo Anthony or somebody. I'm talking about guys like Steph, Clay, guys who've won championships, guys like the Spurs had. You want to keep them around if they're productive as long as you can. And at some point, I think maybe, well, I was going to say Tom Brady, maybe this applies to him too, but sticking to basketball. When you've got these guys, look at the Bulls when they had Michael Jordan and The Last Dance and Jerry Krause and ownership there. They thought, well, we'll replace these guys. And you don't. So I can't blame the Warriors for wanting to keep that championship window open with the great players because they're really harder than in any other sport. They're really hard, if not impossible, to replace in the NBA. So I don't fault them for hanging on to these guys and trying to keep that window open.
All right, he's Whitey Gleason. I'm John Dickinson, 888-957-9570. We'll get to Vince and Lafayette, and we'll close the books on this edition of Warriors This Week. Coming up right here on 95.7 The Game.
You know what? Let's throw a party this year for the big game.
Hey, we can invite our friends over and all take turns yelling at the TV during the game.
But first, we should get a new TV.
Yeah, like one of the top-rated brands, Samsung, LG, or Sony.
Okay, so I'll start shopping on the internet, then head over to the Warehouse Club to compare.
But if that's all we do, we'll be sorry.
Why?
Because the best deals on those top-rated TVs are at Video Only, not online or at the club.
Video Only has better deals?
Yep. We could save up to $500 if we shop smart.
Then we could afford a larger model and really impress our friends.
At Video Only, you won't find huge stores with refrigerators or microwaves, but you will find the best deals on top-rated TVs, soundbars, and monitors. Shop around. Just make sure you visit Video Only, because if you don't,
you'll be sorry.
In Mountain View, San Mateo, Union City, Dublin, and San Rafael. Video Only.
Jonas Knox here, and this message is brought to you by Discover. Did you know you could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection? The latest innovation from Discover? Discover will help regularly remove your personal info, like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And they'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app, see terms, and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection. That's discover.com/online privacy protection.
If you own a business, this has been a bumpy ride. From pandemic to inflation, I'm sure you could use a break. If your business has 5 or more employees and survived COVID, you might be eligible to receive a payroll tax refund of up to $26,000 per employee. The challenge is getting your hands on it. Hi, I'm Howard Mackler, and that's why I founded GetRefunds.com to cut through the red tape and get you that money. The team of tax attorneys we have put together are highly trained in this little-known payroll tax refund program. We do all the work, charge not a dime up front, and simply share a percentage of the cash that we get for you. Businesses of all types qualify, including those who took PPP, nonprofits, and even those that had increases in sales. We have helped return over $1 billion to businesses, and we can help your business too. Just go to getrefunds.com and answer a few questions. This payroll tax refund is only available for a limited period of time. Don't lose out on up to $26,000 per employee. Go to getrefunds.com. That's getrefunds.com.
For the ones finding new ways to ensure the job always gets done. For the ones wearing many hats. For the ones who are hands-on, even from far away. And the ones keeping business moving forward. We are Grainger, offering professional-grade industrial supplies, plus real-time product availability and access to experts ready to answer your toughest questions. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi.
Who's this? Buzz. He appears whenever you eat Honey Nut Cheerios. Like a genie? Sure. Ooh, does he grant wishes? I wish I lived in a giant boot. No, I wish I could swim with a humpback whale. No.
I can grant you a delicious bowl of Honey Nut Cheerios, which can help lower cholesterol as part of a heart-healthy diet.
Ooh, with heart shapes, too.
Happy heart-shaped Cheerios are back for a limited time. Pick up a box of Honey Nut Cheerios at your local store for an easy, delicious, and heart-healthy start to your day.
Duran Duran returns to the Bay Area May 28th with special guests Nile Rodgers and Chic and Bastille. Don't miss Duran Duran, the Future Past Tour, May 28th at SAP Center San Jose. Tickets on sale Thursday at Ticketmaster.com.
Now back to Warriors This Week on 95.7 The Game.
Final segment, John Dickinson and Whitey Gleason, 888-957-9570. That is the phone number to give us a call or shoot us a text here. Final couple of minutes as we try and figure out what the Warriors are going to do. Do they keep Gary Payton II even as an injured player?
Yes.
Or do they rescind the trade and James Wiseman comes back? You look to move Wiseman into the offseason. 650 on the Xfinity Mobile text line. Interesting take here. I wanted to run at you, and then I know we've got some calls to get to between now and the end of the program. 650 writes, we can't question whatever the Dubs decide to do. They've won 4 championships in 8 years, including one after a bad draft pick at number 2 in 2020. What say you?
Yeah, it's, we quibble, but the one they won last year was almost miraculous. So we really, you got to give them the benefit of the doubt here because they've proven they definitely know what they're doing, JD.
Let's get to, and I quibble with that. Before we get to Vince, to me, if you take an injured Gary Payton II back, the whole thing should be looked at as with more scrutiny because you had that opportunity. Like if Payton can't play the rest of this year, and then is injury plagued the next 2 years, and Wiseman goes on to be a player, and you could have vetoed the whole thing at that point. Like to me, like there's a level of scrutiny that I think the Warriors are absolved from if Payton is coming back and he's a healthy player. But if you're taking on a player that you know that's not healthy, then you need to be looked at harder, and I think judged harsher based on if it doesn't work out ultimately down the line. Let's get to the phones, and let's go to Vince in Lafayette next here on 95.7 The Game. Hey, Vince.
Okay, my number one question is, can the Warriors and Portland tweak the deal? This is the only way I would accept this if I'm the Warriors. The 2 second picks that we were sending to Portland stays, and they're going to have to send us a number 1 pick for not this year's draft, but the following year's draft where we don't have a pick. And that's the only way I accept it. If they refuse to do that, I'd cancel the whole deal. I'm the NBA commissioner. I would cancel 2 Portland's number 1 picks back-to-back years for what they did because that's an outright fraud. I mean, they had Peyton play with taking shots. They knew he was hurt. They do it the last second. I would take 2 number 1 picks if I'm the commissioner. So I would want to know if the deal can be tweaked with Portland and the Warriors after the trade deadline. Because nobody's talked about that. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
You could help me with that.
Thanks, Vince. We have talked about it. Thank you, Vince. Appreciate the call. the deal cannot be tweaked.
Can't do it.
And as far as does the league look into the Blazers, I think the league will look into the Blazers.
Too. Yes.
And we'll see. I think the Blazers could be penalized. Obviously, if the Blazers are penalized, that it's not necessarily going to be something in the Warriors' favor. It's not as if they're going to take something from the Blazers and give it to the Warriors, but I do think the Blazers could be penalized in this thing. The Warriors' recourse is veto the trade, and under the current terms of the trade.
No
and
tweaking.
That's where,
no tweaking.
Yeah, no tweaking allowed. And that's why I would personally veto it, is just that it's just not, like, to me, it's like, nah, you know what, we're not doing this. League can look into it. Did Portland do something wrong? But you're looking at it, and you can't whine and say, oh, you sold us a damaged player, and then at the same time also accept the player. Like at the point at which you accept them, knowing everything you know now, I think you gotta live with it. Let's go to Jonathan next here on Warriors This Week. What's up, Jonathan?
Good afternoon, guys.
Hey, Jonathan.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. I just want to say real quick, man. I think the Warriors are stuck between a hard place and a rock. That being said, I think they just go with the trade. I don't think they're gonna need him until the playoffs for his defensive prowess. And real quick, man, people need to stop blaming Steve Kerr for how Wiseman turned out. I mean, remember, from the get-go, Steve Kerr has said this is a team. He is a player's team, not his team. It's just his job to guide him to the right direction and put him in position to succeed. So I think Wiseman not working out or being traded is the call of the core three. Remember, the core three is the guys that made the call to start Looney to finish off last year's run. So I think it's their call. It's not like Wiseman is not talented. He's talented, but he's not what they need right now. The core three with Jordan Poole has enough offense, and they need Looney to be like, Azaza, somebody who would do the dirty job, set screen, play defense. But he's not that guy right now, and they don't have time to wait because they're in a window win now mode.
Yeah, Steve Kerr just won a championship last year. I know the players had, they won it. But to blame a coach, as so many people have, thank you, Jonathan, for, he didn't develop Wiseman. Well, they just won a championship. So how can you criticize the coach for that? It makes no sense, JD.
No doubt. And look, the Warriors system has led them to the 4 championships in 8 years. And I think the system maybe changes if you're a full-blown developmental mode team. If you're Detroit, you're Orlando, you're Houston, then maybe you change the system at that point. But to this point, you still have those future Hall of Famers and champions on your roster, so you're going to be more reluctant to change it. And so, we'll see ultimately what happens.
Hey, JD, I know Whitey was talking
Greg?
about that. Why didn't Steve Kerr, get Wiseman ready? And there was some audio of him actually talking about that.
I was too busy winning.
So that's what happened. Yeah, so it made sense.
Yeah, Craig, beautiful jumping in there. That's perfect. Too busy winning, and everybody loves the winning that goes with it. I mean, that's the part. And let's assume here, Whitey, that the trade does go through and the Warriors accept it. Is the two timeline era is dead, right? Because that was one of the things I jotted down as a topic today, but it's obviously been shifted because we don't know whether the deal is going to be official. But and look, Kuminga could still be a player. And that's fine. And if Kuminga's a player, then maybe the Warriors are still able to be successful moving forward. But this whole notion of it's going to be Poole and Moody and PBJ and Kuminga and Wiseman, and they're all going to be running up and down the floor 3 years from now as their own separate playoff team. I mean, that was a little bit of a unicorn thinking.
Yeah, it's unlikely. Every team has, to a degree, a 2-timeline plan. You have a plan for what happens when your veterans get older. But Wiseman was really the centerpiece of that 2-timeline plan thing, and it was a risky, not to say the Warriors don't have a bright future with some of the younger players, but the 2-timeline thing, such as we know it, it was a risky move, and it came up short. It failed. Doesn't mean that the future's bleak, but the 2-timeline thing, I'm with you, it's dead.
All right, let's get to Joe.
Hello, Joe.
Hey guys, just a couple comments regarding the trade. I mean, I cannot believe that this is even a discussion. I mean, they of course need to rescind it. Gary Payton II was supposed to be back. Was supposed to be out 6 months ago. So yes. There's something really, really wrong with his body. So You have to. I mean, and Portland might buy him out. If they buy him out, the Warriors could sign him for cheap. And you got to. This is what you call showcase. You got to take Wiseman back, showcase him, and you could probably get a better deal for him. This is a no-brainer for the Warriors. Second comment, in terms of, if I tell you guys, both of you guys right now, let's make a bet. Wiseman, I heard what Dwayne Casey said about him yesterday. He's gonna get playing time. He's gonna be a 2010 player. I mean, if we make a bet, if he's gonna be a 2010 player the rest of the year, would you guys bet me? Let's say $100. He's gonna go 20 and 10. I guarantee you. In Detroit.
I would take the bet that he's not 20 and 10 between now and the end of the season this year. I would do that bet. We're not going to do that bet officially, but I would do that bet, hypothetically speaking, and thanks for the call, Joe. Go ahead, Whitey. Jump in here real quick.
I'm with you, too. I wouldn't take that. I don't want to literally make the bet, but if we did, Joe, thanks for the call, but there's just no way that happens. There's just
would not. I'll say this, though. It would not surprise me if James Wiseman at some point in his career averages 20 and 10. I'm not done with James Wiseman. I just don't think it was ever going to work here. On the timeline for James Wiseman's development did not match the timeline for him to be productive as a Warrior. There was too much they wanted to do in terms of win now to where he wasn't going to develop. But I'm open-minded to the fact that he could be a good player, and I'm open-minded to the fact that we may look back 2-3 years from now and say the Warriors made a mistake, to be perfectly honest, based on the player that he becomes. Now, if the Warriors win another title, then so be it. And they've already won one, basically, with him being a non-factor. But I also don't think the Warriors are going to be showcasing James Wiseman if they veto the trade.
If you do that, you lose games right now. If you play him, you lose games. And by the way, as far as 20 and 10, I think even Purvis Ellison actually was 20 and 10 one year with Washington. So it could happen, but it ain't going to happen anytime soon. And the Warriors cannot afford to showcase James Wiseman right now, or this season is a lost cause.
All right. Great stuff today, Whitey.
Thank you.
Lot of fun.
Yeah.
Really good, really good. What's going to happen with this trade? What's going to happen with the Warriors? Got to keep it here on 95.7 The Game. Warriors Live, 4:30. I'm going to head over to Chase Center. We'll have that for you. If Bob Myers does speak, that would mean the decision has been made. We'll have that for you. But we'll keep you updated on all the latest as far as what the Warriors do. And then the Warriors and the Lakers tonight from Chase, 5:30 tip-off. So thanks to Craig. Thanks to Whitey. We'll talk to you next week right here, 95.7 The Game.
Hey, let's throw a party this year for the big game.
Oh, great idea. But first, we should get a new TV. One of the top-rated brands, Samsung, LG, or Sony.
Okay, I'll start shopping on the internet and then head over to the Warehouse Club.
Well, but if that's all we do, we'll be sorry.
Why?
Because the best deals on those top-rated TVs are at video only, not online or at the club.
Video only?
Yep. We can save up to $500 if we shop smart.
Or we'll be sorry.
Johnny Mosley here with the Saturday Toyota Tahoe Report. You're not going to want to miss this one at Palisades. It's going off up here. So grab your PAL boards, jump in your Toyota, and get ready for some face shots.
Thanks, Johnny. Snow showers are expected early Saturday morning, but they should clear up by the afternoon. Temperatures expected around 35 degrees. By evening, you'll see partly cloudy skies with a low of 17 degrees. This report has been brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Check out Toyota's full lineup of mountain-ready all-wheel drive vehicles. Toyota, let's go places.
He's the best interview in the Bay Area.
Steve Kerr, Warrior head coach here on 95.7 The Game.
When those nights happen, I kick myself afterwards for not walking into the locker room and banging on the walls, during our pregame meeting and yelling, do you guys understand what's about to happen?
He's on with Damon and Ratto every single week during the NBA season.
Wow.
Steve Kerr on 95.7 The Game. Presented by Xfinity. Supercharge your home with supersonic Wi-Fi. Unbeatable internet only from Xfinity.
Did you know that gold was the best performing asset in 2022? Real estate, crypto, stocks, and bonds, gold outperformed them all in 2022. Noble Gold Investments helped thousands of clients buy real physical gold last year. According to longtermtrends.net, gold outperformed the S&P 500, Dow, and Bitcoin. Had you invested in the S&P 500 a year ago, you'd be down more than 20%. If you invested in Bitcoin a year ago, you'd be down more than 65%. If you invested in the Dow a year ago, you'd be down almost 10%. Yes, gold has outperformed them all in 2022, and silver was not far behind. So what are you waiting for? Invest with Noble Gold Investments before the end of this month, and you'll bag a free 1/4 ounce American Gold Eagle coin with every qualified IRA of $50,000 or more. You can't go wrong with Noble Gold Investments and their thousands of 5-star reviews. Call Noble Gold Investments at 877-646-5347 to find out more. That's 877-646-5347.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, clickgrainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about those sounds? Those are the sounds of a new Samsung laundry set with extra large capacity, serving up a powerful yet gentle clean in just 28 minutes. Making this the sound of savings on the best appliance brands. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. Get up to 25% off select appliances, including Samsung. Ends March 1st. Pricing valid February 9th through March 1st, 2023. Gas Dry Extra. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
Luke Bryan's Country on Tour with Chase Bigham, Alana Springsteen, and Tyler Brandon is coming to Shoreline Amphitheater on Saturday, July 22nd. And 95.7 The Game has your tickets. Enter for your chance to win at 957thegame.com.
Here's football star Tony Romo for Skechers Max Cushioning Footwear.
You know when you go to your kid's game and you have to sit on those uncomfortable, super hard bleachers? That's how I feel now when I wear regular shoes. Why? Because once I started wearing Skechers Max Cushioning, I've been spoiled with how amazing extra cushioning feels. It's like going to sit on those hard bleachers and someone stuck a big cushy pillow on them. Because Skechers maxed out the cushioning with a thick, comfy slice of super light Ultra Go cushioning for a soft, pillowy feel with every step. And the comfort doesn't end there. Max Cushioning also has Skechers air-cooled Goga Mat insoles, and they're machine washable and very affordable. These definitely won't max out your budget, so don't settle for inferior cushioning. Treat yourself to maximum cushion with Skechers Max Cushioning.
You heard Tony Romo. Now feel the difference extra cushioning can make for yourself with ultra-comfortable, machine-washable Skechers Max Cushioning footwear. See all the fashionable styles of Max Cushioning for men and women at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM at HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Is PGA Tour, Waste Management, Phoenix Open. Scotty Scheffler, third round, leads by 3, 12 under overall through 4 holes today. I'm Brian Fenley.
This is Fox Football Saturday. Wake up, boy up! You're listening to Fox Football Saturday, and we're getting you ready for the big game. It's one game, one champion, and it's coming soon. Fox Football Saturday is now. Ready? Go! Live from the TireRack.com studios of Fox Sports Radio, here's Steve Hartman and 13-year NFL veteran Ephraim Salah.
Living the dream once again here on the eve of a very big game tomorrow. Yeah, the Eagles, Chiefs are getting ready. We are Fox Sports Red Zone Radio, and we're broadcasting live from the TireRack.com studios. TireRack.com, we're going to help get you there. An unmatched selection, fast free shipping, free road hazard protection, over 10,000 recommended installers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
And now the National Football Conference champion Atlanta Falcons. Tackle from San Diego State, number 74, Ephraim Salam.
That was it. By the way, he was the only Falcon introduced before that Super Bowl. They just reserved the entire pregame introduction to the prize rookie, youngest starter in Super Bowl history.
You know, started on 19 games, only the 4th NFL rookie to ever do that.
Yeah.
All rookie team. Pro Bowl alternate, the whole 9 yards. The works, man.
Yeah, and
I
it was
started
quite a
my
day.
career off like that.
It's sort of like when Orson Welles directed Citizen Kane for his debut.
Oh yeah, it's over after that.
You know, you start hot.
Good luck,
you
buddy.
know. Yeah, good luck. All right, here we are. It is the day before the big game, the Super Bowl, and of course the Eagles and Chiefs are all ready to roll for tomorrow. Both of us were in Arizona. I was there all week, as a matter of fact. I want to start with you, though. Find out about you. Now, did you play in a golf tournament? You mentioned your buddy Kyle Turley, your brother from San Diego State.
I played in the Gridiron Greats cannabis-friendly golf tournament. It was the first annual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that Kyle Turley, his partner Jim McMahon, Mike Ditka, they have come together and really spearheaded the initiative of using cannabis and CBD oils to treat the pain, especially for former athletes, chronic pain that we have, opposed to the opioids that are prescribed for us.
Very smart.
Well, yeah, because it can save your life.
Yes.
And Kyle will he'll testify to this. It saved his life. I mean, it was at a point there, and the only reason I feel comfortable sharing this because he shared this on national television, and he's very outspoken about. He was in a very dark place. He was having vertigo. He was having light seizures, chronic headaches, and he was being prescribed all of the opioids to try to subdue some of the pain, but it was making the situation worse. Because then you get hooked on that, and now you're not focused. You're not being who you're supposed to be. And he found his strain of marijuana, and it literally, not figuratively, literally saved his life.
So how's your golf game?
I think we were 1 under.
Well, that's not bad.
I was in a foursome.
Yeah.